All right, it is week number 13 of the college football season. We only have got 2 more regular season weeks here for college football in 2024. Obviously, we still have the conference championship week in 3 weeks, and then I guess the Army-Navy week, and obviously we're going to have predictions for every single bowl game and the college football playoffs as well. But yeah, the regular season is coming to an end, only 2 more weeks, and we've got a lot of games here in week number 13. And if you think there's a lot of games this week, there's even more next week. Next week's video, I kid you not, might be 3 hours long. I don't know how long this one's going to be either, because there are just so many games. There's like 8 teams on bye, so everyone's playing this week. There are some teams playing FCS schools, like let's give a shout out to South Carolina. They're playing Warford this week. You got Clemson playing the Citadel. You got Florida State playing a game. Maybe they can actually win. They're 1-9, taking on the 1-10 Charleston Southern Buccaneers. I think they are Pirates. Maybe FSU wins that game. We're not going to pick the FCS games. We'd expect FSU to finally get one. We expect Clemson to beat up on the Citadel. We expect South Carolina to beat up on Warford, right? Like those games, you kind of know how they're going to go. But every, again, FBS versus FBS game we are predicting here today, like we've been doing all season long with college football. And folks, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. It helps out the channel a lot if you just hit that subscribe button and leave a like for more weekly college football picks here on the channel, as well as our daily college basketball best bets. We post one of these every single day. Again, every single day we give you our 5 best bets for college basketball, along with our NBA predictions as well that are also daily on the channel. We predict every single NBA game, along with, of course, college football, college basketball, and the UFC. We've got our Pio Thurian, Davison Figueiredo predictions from Macau, China this weekend, and also our NFL predictions are coming on the channel tomorrow. Okay, all that out the way, let's get into the first slate. Here are the games, and we start, of course, with some action. We've got Kent State versus Akron, and guys, we're actually taking Kent State to cover. They are the worst team in college football right now. I'm not going to pretend like they're not. They're 0-10. They aren't very good, but you know what, guys? We're actually going to take them to cover once. Why? Because they covered last week against the Miami of Ohio. They covered the 31.5 point spread. They lost the game 34-7. They were once winning 7-0 in that game. I think Kent State is kind of building to something. No, they're not. I just want to see the Flashes win a game, man. I think this is their best opportunity all season long. This is a rivalry game between Akron and Kent State. It's in Kent. We're pulling for the Golden Flashes tonight, man, or tomorrow night. +10, I like Kent State here. Tommy Ulatowski, Krishan McCray, Luke Floria. It's the last ride for the senior receiver, Luke Floria. I think they can get Akron. I think they can. I don't know if they're going to win the game, but I think they're going to cover the 10 points. I've talked about Ben Finley all season long. I do like Ben Finley, the starting quarterback for Akron, but Akron's 2-8. Given they've won more games in the MAC this season than the 0 Kent has won, Akron went out and beat Eastern Michigan, which still doesn't make sense, but they did. Give me Kent State to cover the 10 points. I can't believe I'm doing it. It's the second time all season long I've taken the Golden Flashes. Maybe they just let Ulatowski air it out. Because the games they've been closest in the entire season long, the Eastern Michigan loss, the Ball State loss, Ulatowski has 345 and 394 yards respectively. And what happens as well? Their star sophomore receiver, Krishan McCray, has 188 and 213 yards in those games as well. I just want Kent State to let Ulatowski air it out. You've got nothing else to lose at this point. The entire coaching staff got to be gone, right? I mean, come on. Give me Tommy Ulatowski and the Kent State Golden Flashes to cover. Will they win? Probably not. But we can remain hopeful here. Next up, Western Michigan takes on Central Michigan. We like Western Michigan to go on the road here to Mount Pleasant and win this football game. They're 5-5, looking to become bowl eligible. Central Michigan is out of it, and that's something that you do have to consider, I guess, at this point in the season, right? Got teams who are trying to make bowl games, like Western Michigan, and for Central Michigan, right, this is a team that, sure, they're going to still play football, but to make a bowl game, they physically can't. So you got to just think of motivation for these teams. I get it. It's a battle of Michigan here between the West Michigan Broncos and the Central Michigan Chippewas. And West Michigan at one point in time was 5-3. They were in first place in the MAC. They were 4-0 in conference, but then they dropped back-to-back games to Northern Illinois and Bowling Green. And my goodness, those 2 games, both of them were just horrible for the Broncos. I don't know what's going on with Hayden Wolf, but he's been the worst version of Hayden Wolf all season long, which is really disappointing. the thing is, Central Michigan has been nothing impressive all season long. They are 3-7. They have won one game in the MAC all year, and it was a win over Ball State. They beat Central Michigan also earlier this season, but they are coming off 5 straight losses to Ohio, East Michigan, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, and Toledo. Sure, the Ohio and East Michigan games were close, but recently they've just gotten blown out. The Bowling Green game, they lost by 10, but they lost by 27 points to Toledo. They lost by 39 to Miami of Ohio. I like the Western Michigan Broncos to win this football game on the road and cover the 6.5 points. We'll see what performance we get out of Hayden Wolfe, and he has not been as good recently. But if they keep the ball on the ground with guys like Jaden Nixon, I think they should be fine. Give me the Broncos to win the game on the road at Central Michigan and cover the 6.5 points as well. Next up, of course, we stay in the MAC. We've got a lot of MAC coming up. We've got Miami of Ohio taking on Northern Illinois. The game is in Oxford, and we are going to be going with the Miami of Ohio Redhawks to win the football game. This team's hot right now, right? And again, something else we got to consider now at this point of the season, of course, some of these teams are done playing conference. Actually, the MAC teams are not done playing conference play, but like Clemson's done with their conference schedule. So we got to think about conference championships too, because of course we're going to be predicting all of those later on in the year, obviously in a couple weeks. You got to look at where the MAC stands right now. And obviously, because all the MAC teams play right now, we can, just talk about the MAC. Miami of Ohio, I believe, still controls their own destiny to the MAC championship, if I'm not mistaken. There's 3 best teams right now. The 3 best teams right now in the MAC are Miami of Ohio, and Bowling Green. Bowling Green plays on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, though, right? Yeah, they play Ball State on Saturday. We'll get to that game eventually. But Miami of Ohio has got to keep winning. And they get a Northern Illinois team that has caught fire recently. Obviously, the spread's only 2.5. It's because of NIU's win a couple weeks ago at Western Michigan, a game they were not supposed to win. It's because they beat Akron last week by 13 points at home. Again, this is the same NIU team that beat Notre Dame earlier on in the season in South Bend. And that's what Northern Illinois is going to have. That's what they're going to talk about when you watch the bowl season this year, and when NIU gets into the Raycom Camellia Bowl, or whatever bowl they get in, the Bahamas Bowl, that's what they're going to talk about over and over and over again this season. And for good reason, but this NIU team has struggled on offense all season long until they got to this weird Wednesday night stuff, and all of a sudden their offense is just back. And it's just their run game. Hampton hasn't been playing, lights out football, but it's been the run game. Telly Johnson has broken out, didn't play much earlier in the season. He's a freshman who I believe they might be trying to save his red shirt still, but he's only played 2 games. So yeah, he's fine now. Because if he plays the last 4 games of the season plus the bowl game, he can still, again, be a freshman next year. Regardless, I like Miami of Ohio. Why? The Redhawks play great defense. I trust in Brett Gabbert. He's been playing better as the season has progressed, and their run game's really good as well. Keon Mosey's at 846 yards this season, put up 196 in their win over Kent State, and I get it, it's Kent, but Mosey has had over 100 yards rushing in the last 5 games, every game for the last 5 games for the Redhawks. I expect them to win this football game, and again, I do like the Redhawks to be a threat to win the MAC championship. We'll see again how Ohio and Bowling Green play as well down the stretch. Next up, we go to Wednesday. Buffalo goes to Eastern Michigan, and if you've been watching the videos all season long, you know what I'm gonna say here. Give me the Buffalo Bulls. Is this even a question? +2 on the road. Come on now. CJ Ogbonna, Al-Jay Henderson, give me Buffalo. They're 6-4 this season. At one point in time, did I think they were going to win the MAC? Maybe. That kind of got spoiled when they lost to UConn. But I know UConn's on the MAC, but they just looked horrible in that game, so I kind of just bumped the brakes on Buffalo a little bit. But back-to-back victory for the Bulls. They became bowl eligible last week with a victory against Ball State. Now, that game was really bad in the first half, but Buffalo pulled something out their ass in the second half and ended up winning the game in overtime. Again, shout out to CJ Ogbonna and Victor Snow coming through in that ball game for us for Buffalo. They didn't cover the spread, but they won the football game, and it was really fun to watch. Ogbonna had 5 touchdowns. It was great. I think Buffalo actually ends the season 8-4. They're going to beat Kent next week, obviously, right? But this is the one they go on the road to Eastern Michigan here. I do like the Bulls to win this football game. They're getting 2 points on the road. I really like this play. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Eastern Michigan is still fighting to make a bowl game. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think they're going to get in. They've got Buffalo, and they got to go to Western Michigan next week. I think Western Michigan probably will get them in Kalamazoo. I get it. Cole Snyder's been, has always been a good and reliable quarterback for Eastern Michigan, but it hasn't cut it the last 3 weeks. He threw for 354 yards in their win over Akron, or the loss over Akron. They lose the game by 4 points, and the guy puts up 350 passing yards, right? They lose to Toledo the week after, they lose to Ohio, and now you're taking on a really good Buffalo team, an explosive Buffalo team as well, and I get it. They have the levels of defense of the New Mexico Lobos, right? That's kind of how they play defense. They can't tackle, and they give up a lot of yards. Now, hey, I'm going to pat myself on the back real quick. Who told you last week New Mexico was going to win and spoil Washington State's season? Just saying, Devin Dampier, watch out, man. He is a baller. I'm just saying. I told you last week New Mexico is winning that football game. So I'm going to, and I told you Syracuse was going to go to Cal and win that game too as plus 11.5 point dogs. I'm just saying. Give me Buffalo to win this football game. We've been high on the Bulls every game this season. We've picked them every game this season, and we will continue to pick them. The Bulls are going bowling. Let's just see how far they can get. Give me them to beat Eastern Michigan on the road in Michigan. Next up, we go to Ohio and Toledo in the Glass Bowl. I like Toledo to win this football game. They're getting 2 points at home. Again, it's a huge one for in terms of the MAC championship game. I think Toledo spoils Ohio's season right now. I think they do. Ohio's been on a run. They've won 3 in a row. They have that big win over Buffalo. They beat Kent State 41-0. They beat Eastern Michigan 35-10. But Toledo's a tough team to play on the road. They just are. Toledo is 7-3 on the season. They've won 3 of 4. Low-scoring affair where they beat Northern Illinois, lost to Bowling Green, beat Eastern Michigan, and then beat Central Michigan in their last game. Tucker Gleason, he can throw it. Tucker Gleason's a pretty solid guy for this Toledo team. They had, again, John Allen Richter playing some, but again, Gleason's back from injuries playing. Jerrion Newton is a great receiver, again, for Toledo as well. I think, again, just with this game being in the Glass Bowl and at home for Toledo, that's what puts them over the top for me to win this football game. Again, neutral site, and at Ohio, I would probably give it to the Bobcats, but it is in the Glass Bowl, it's in Toledo, and I do like the Rockets to win this football game. They're catching fire at the right time, and again, definitely Ohio is as well. Ohio's only lost 1 game in conference this season, but I feel like this is the one they do lose. And with that being said, Toledo wins this football game. That forces Ohio out of the MAC championship, and for now, we have that being Miami of Ohio versus Bowling Green. I don't mind Ohio at all. I just think Parker Navarro isn't, a guy who's going to take over a football game for you. Coleman Owens, their top receiver, Anthony Tyus III can run it as well, but I think what does hold them back and what's going to hold them back from winning the MAC this season is going to be Parker Navarro. I mean, the guy's thrown 7 touchdowns to 8 interceptions this season. It's just, he doesn't change games with his arm. I don't think Ohio is going to get out of this football game with Toledo. I like the Rockets at home in the Glass Bowl to win, and again, to propel Bowling Green now into the MAC championship game. Of course, still a week to play, but for now, we do like that to happen with the Toledo victory. Now we go on to the ACC. We've got Georgia Tech hosting NC State. We like Georgia Tech to win this football game. We like them to cover the spread as well. Georgia Tech's coming off that victory over Miami in a game which they became bowl eligible in. And for NC State, they just got to try to win one of these last 2 games to make a bowl game this season. For as bad as the season started for NC State, again, they're still in a position where if they win one, they can get in. I thought that they had a chance of doing that last week against Duke at home. Obviously, it didn't happen. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think it's going to be really rough for NC State to try to finish with 6 wins. They're not going to be favored in either of these games against Georgia Tech and against North Carolina, both of which are on the road. Georgia Tech, of course, their biggest victory to date, obviously 2 weeks ago at home against Miami, winning the game 28-23, an absolutely monumental victory for this program. And the biggest win that Aaron Philo has got as well. Obviously, again, the new starting quarterback for now for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Haynes King obviously still involved as well, but King is now primarily just a runner for the most part. He will throw it as well. But I really think, again, this Georgia Tech team's weird. But as long as they consistently continue to run the ball like they did in that Miami game, I would expect them to win this football game too. And obviously, again, Miami made a lot of self-inflicted mistakes in that football game. I get it. But North Carolina State is just not that great. Obviously, C.J. Bailey's their starting quarterback now with Grayson McCall. Obviously, McCall's been out, and McCall, of course, has retired since. I don't think C.J. Bailey's bad. I just think Georgia Tech's the better football team. I think their offense is going to be able to run the ball all day against NC State, and on top of that, I do like the defense at Georgia Tech in this football game. It's a Thursday night game in Georgia. The deck is really stacked in this one against the NC State Wolfpack, and I do like the Yellow Jackets to come out of this one on a Thursday night. Give me Georgia Tech to win the football game, and they will cover the 9 points as well. Next up, we go to UTSA versus Temple on Friday night. It's in the Alamo Dome. I was picking against UTSA last week or 2 weeks ago when they played North Texas. I'm done picking against UTSA. Okay? This is their season right now. Because they're not going next week to Army and winning. It's just not happening. They're 5-5. This is to get into a bowl game. I think they will get it. Obviously, they're playing Temple, who, it's Temple. They are 3-7 this season. They are coming off a win over FAU. Good for them. Didn't think that was going to happen, but they won the game by 3 points. A walk-off field goal for the Temple Owls won that one for them. Was anybody impressed? No, because it's Temple. But good win for them. I'm happy for Temple. They fired their coach the day after they won in overtime. Why? I mean, at least let bro finish the season. I don't get that. There might be something else there. I don't know. But Temple's not that impressive. Again, you got to understand the pandemonium, I think that's the right word, that's gonna occur after firing your head coach, and now you got to turn it around and play a very high-scoring offense in the UTSA Roadrunners, a team that, has been very close in every single conference game they've played this season. Their losses in the American Conference are 10 points at ECU, 2 points at Rice, and a 1-point loss, 46-45, in a game which they completely blew it against Tulsa. But what have they done since? They've beaten two really good teams. I don't know if North Texas is a good team anymore, but Memphis and North Texas in back-to-back victories, 44 and 48 points put up in both those games. You gotta love it if you're UTSA. Owen McCown has really come through, and they looked great last week against North Texas. Owen McCown's got 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 2,800 yards this season. I mean, McCown can sling it, and he's been doing a great job in doing so this year for the Roadrunners. This is one-way traffic in this game. Friday night, the Owls go on the road to UTSA. The line is 16.5 in the Alamo Dome. I'm fine with it. Give me the UTSA Roadrunners to completely run through the Temple Owls in this football game. It's going to be a dominant one-sided performance. UTSA gets the job done and wins at home. I messed up the graphic. I did not mean plus 16.5. We were going minus 16.5 in this game. Okay, we messed that one up. It's minus 16.5. We're not taking Temple. We're not. We're taking UTSA. They should dominate. The way they played North Texas last week, they should be able to do the same exact thing against Temple. We move on to our next one. We go to the Big Ten. We have got Purdue taking on Michigan State. Give me the Spartans. Give me Michigan State at home in this one. It's in East Lansing. Purdue just leaves a lot to be desired, obviously. Michigan State's going to have to win back-to-back to become bowl eligible. Will they get there? I don't know. They've got 2 home games against Purdue and Rutgers. It's definitely possible if, Michigan State is bowl eligible this season, or if they can be bowl eligible this season. Purdue is just absolutely atrocious, though, obviously. I mean, this is not the game that Michigan State will lose. If they are going to lose to not be bowl eligible this season, it will be that game against Rutgers. I think right now they will get it, but I don't know. Michigan State just hasn't been good recently. They win that big Iowa game. You're thinking, okay, the Spartans are going to give some of these teams problems, obviously, down the stretch. Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. They lose to all 3 of them and get blown out in the Indiana and the Illinois games. Quarterback play is not consistent for Michigan State. Aiden Childs still has 11 interceptions this season, which is brutal. Let's just be honest with ourselves. 10 touchdowns to 11 picks. Obviously, again, he's an athlete. He's there to run the football as well, but they really don't get consistent quarterback play to Aiden Childs. I'm not going to say he's the problem recently because, let's be honest, he hasn't been. They can't run the football with anyone other than Childs. It's been rough sledding for Michigan State. I think they beat Purdue, obviously. I'm not expecting them to lose this football game. Purdue has just been abysmal all season long, and we can go over their Big Ten run. Lost to Nebraska, 52-6 loss to Wisconsin, 50-49 loss to Illinois, 35-0 Oregon, 26-20 to Northwestern, 45-0 Ohio State, 49-10 Penn State, Michigan State this week, and then, they got to go to Bloomington next week. This is rough. Obviously, Purdue went somewhat viral with, I forgot who caught the touchdown. And he was just the receiver's out of bounds, and the Penn State corner just looks at him like, dude, look where you're at. Purdue's going to get embarrassed. Michigan State's not great, but I kind of feel, and they haven't won a game in 3 weeks, I get it, and they have not won a conference game by more than, 14 points all season long. This kind of feels like highway robbery, guys. Purdue's by far the worst team in the Big Ten. They are way worse than the other bad teams in the Big Ten. We're talking about Northwestern, Maryland? No. Purdue's all-time bad. Purdue's very bad this season. It's all downhill for the Boilermakers right now. Give me Michigan State to absolutely dominate this football game and win it by more than 13.5. Next up, we go to San Jose State versus UNLV. I might go to this game. I went to UNLV. I went to San Jose State and Boise State last week. Saw Ashton Genty. San Jose State had to just blow the spread at the end of the game, right? I mean, you got to throw a pick in garbage time, and then you do drive down the field at the end of the game to try to punch it in, and you can't get in the end zone from the 1 yard line. Shout out to Nick Nash. Nick Nash has now broken the single season record for most receiving yards, I believe. Or most receptions or receiving yards for a San Jose State Spartan receiver ever. If he hasn't broken the receptions, I think it's the yards he hasn't broken. He's broken the receptions. If he hasn't broken the yards yet, he's going to get there very soon. Nick Nash is maybe the best receiver in college football. He's that good. I get it. He's playing in the Mountain West, but he's been very good all year long. And Walker Agette, I kind of hate on Walker Agette. He kind of has found his footing. He fumbled in a key spot in that Boise game on a 4th down conversion. Walker Agette, instead of going down after picking up the first down, lowers his shoulder into a Boise linebacker, completely gets blasted and loses the football. Now, again, Agette threw for 446 yards in that game, but I don't know. I do like Emmett Brown a lot, and I think it sucks Emmett Brown's not starting, but, Walker Agette can air it out. He's been playing all right. Agette can air it out for San Jose State. And they've got their 1-2 punch receiver with Nick Nash and Justin Lockhart. This is going to be a really fun team to watch, in the bowl season, just because I think, again, you're going to see them on a nationally televised stage. Obviously, again, the bowl season, for the most part, it's only one game at a time, so everyone's going to be watching San Jose State, which I'm really excited for. People are going to, get to see how great Nick Nash is, assuming he plays the bowl game. I think San Jose State has a chance to win this game. I don't think they will, but I definitely think they do cover the 8 points. UNLV has had close games recently with teams like Oregon State, who's been very bad. They had a close game against Boise State, Hawaii. Yeah, they beat Utah State, but they kind of kept Utah State around in that football game. They barely beat Kansas, which is a good win. Don't get me wrong. They lost to Syracuse by 3 points. UNLV finds ways to win football games, but getting away from teams is what UNLV struggles with. I like Hodge Malik Williams a lot. I like Ricky White. They have a good team over there at UNLV. They are a ranked football team, and they still need help in the Mountain West. We are going to talk about one of the feature games later on, which, I'll just say right now, Colorado State's going to be a feature game this week. It's going to be the last game we talk about in this entire video, but it's a big game because Colorado State needs to lose one for UNLV to get into the Mountain West Championship. It's what sucks about, the Mountain West this season is UNLV and Boise play. The winner, obviously, is getting into the conference championship game. Colorado State plays neither. So Colorado State, all they have to do is just win win the games they're allotted, and boom, they get into the championship game over UNLV. It sucks. I think UNLV does beat San Jose State, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Spartans straight up win this football game. It's a Friday night game at 7 o'clock here in California. It's a late night one on Friday night. I think San Jose State does have the capability of beating UNLV in this football game. I do think the Rebels slightly get it, but I feel like +8. Yeah, I think it looks really good for San Jose State. Even though San Jose State, the times I have bet big money on them this season, they have screwed me. Boise State, Fresno State, didn't bet them against Oregon State. Colorado State, Washington State, they have every game they've lost this season, I've bet big on them. I just noticed that. Well, I did bet them on SAC and Air Force, but yeah, that's crazy. That's actually insane. Regardless, I have watched San Jose State 3 times this season in person. I went to Fresno to watch them. I saw them in the Sac State game. I saw them play last week at Boise. I might go to this game against UNLV. They're going to beat Stanford in 2 weeks, by the way. 100% that's happening. I don't know. I think the Spartans can cover the 8 points. Their offense is too explosive, I think. I don't know if UNLV is able to get away from them. I think it's a shootout. That's kind of every game San Jose State plays. Their secondary is absolutely horrible. I don't know if Hodge Malik Williams is going to torch them with the passing game, but we'll see. We will see. Let's go on to Saturday now. We start things off here with Wake Forest going on the road at Miami. I do like Wake Forest to cover the 24.5 points in this game, just because I don't trust Miami to completely blow them out here, just because of the way they've been playing recently. The Georgia Tech win, even the Duke win. Yeah, they beat Duke by 22 points, but they let Duke hang around, and, technically, again, Duke would have covered that 24.5. The spread that we're getting for this Miami-Wake Forest game, Duke did cover that. So I feel fine taking Wake Forest here to cover in this one. Miami obviously coming off that loss to Georgia Tech. Now, the ACC gets interesting. It does. Because I believe... who has the tiebreaker with Clemson and Miami? I'm going to look this up right now. Because if it is Miami, then obviously they just have to win these 2 games. But I'm sure Miami is a tiebreaker. Because they would have just already crowned, Miami. Okay, so if they go 7-1, Miami beat Louisville, Clemson lost to Louisville, so common opponent. All right, Miami gets in. So Miami's got to win their last 2 games to make the ACC championship game. I'm telling you right now, I think they're going to lose to Syracuse next week. I'm serious. I think they lose at Syracuse. I like Syracuse a lot. I like Kyle McCord. That team's a hard team to prepare for. They throw the ball all the time. They go for it on 4th down every single drive. I don't know. That's a really rough game for Miami on the road. I think they win this week. They beat Wake Forest. Obviously, again, Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo and the guys. I think they win this football game. But next week, man, that's the game. I think Syracuse is going to get them. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Syracuse will get them. We'll talk about it. I need to see Syracuse play this week, obviously. I need to see Miami play this week. But the way I'm looking at it right now, I do think Syracuse is able to win that football game. I think Wake Forest covers against Miami. I haven't talked to any about Wake Forest. They've just been able to keep games close since losing to Clemson, right? I mean, they beat UConn by 3 points. They beat Stanford by 3 points. They kept it close against Cal, lost it by 10 points. They kept it somewhat close at Chapel Hill and lost the game by 7 points against Omarion Hampton and UNC. Yes, Omarion Hampton had 244 yards in that game for North Carolina. It's insane. I think Wake Forest is able to stay in this football game. 24 just feels like too much. I think it's 24.5 now, so, we're going up in the world. I'm going to take Wake Forest. I'm going to take Wake Forest to cover. I'm thinking Miami obviously wins the football game. There's no doubt with that. But they are coming off a loss. I get they're back at home, but they've just kept teams around like Duke. I think they're going to keep Wake Forest around as well. Give me Hank Bachmer and the Wake Forest Demon Deacons to stay in this football game and cover the spread. Wake Forest technically still bowl eligible, but let's just be honest with ourselves. They're not going to Miami and winning it. Okay? I think they keep it close, And when I mean close, I mean 21 points. Give me Wake Forest to cover, but give me Miami to win. Next up, we stay in the ACC for SMU and Virginia. I really like this line for SMU. All day, SMU minus 9.5. All day. Okay, Boston College kept it close with them. Oh, that sucks. Really sucks. Okay, I mean, Grayson James is, he's a dog. I'm glad, good for him playing over Castellanos, right? Grayson James has been excellent in that role since, Castellanos left the team and got benched. He left the team as a result of getting benched. Regardless, SMU, guys, this team's going to win the ACC. They're going to go to the playoffs, and they're going to give someone a lot of trouble. It's that simple. Their offense is that good. Kevin Jennings is that good. I really like Brashard Smith as well. He's a great running back. Kevin Jennings has done an excellent job at quarterback this year for Southern Methodist. Brashard Smith, again, has been an excellent running back for this team as well. I don't know who this team loses to down the stretch. Virginia, I get they have to go on the road and play Virginia. I'm not too scared. Virginia just got blown out last week at Pitt, or not at Pitt, at Notre Dame. They beat Pitt the week before, which, sure, they upset Pittsburgh. Holstein got hurt, so Yarnella to come in. It is what it is. Calandria's hurt, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it's going to be Tony Muskett as the starting quarterback now, the senior out of Springfield, Virginia. He did all right in their last game, but, and actually, it's not like Calandria's all that great either, so it is what it is. Will they become bowl eligible? I think they have a chance to beat VTech. Do I think they will? I don't know. VTech's going to be tough to go on the road and play. VTech's going to be difficult, I think, for Virginia. I definitely don't think they beat SMU. I think, again, the only reason this line is somewhat close is because Southern Methodist has to go on the road to Virginia, and this is their last true tough task for the rest of the season. Because, they're going to get Cal at home. They're going to beat the crap out of Cal. I'll talk about Cal in a minute. Actually, in a while. It's Cal in this graphic. No, they're in the next one. But we'll talk about Cal eventually. They play Stanford. Big game this week. Yeah, for the Axe. Give me SMU, though. Give me SMU to dominate Virginia. They're the way better football team. Again, this is a team that's probably going to win the ACC. I don't care who they get. Clemson, Miami. They're probably going to be both those teams in the ACC. This is the start of SMU becoming a powerhouse in college football, guys. This team's going to run the ACC for years to come. I'm serious. They should get their NIL money here. They should be, big in the portal this offseason. I really like SMU. I think, again, they're building something here at Southern Methodist. Give me the SMU Mustangs to beat Virginia, and they will cover the 9.5 points as well. Next up, we go on to Rutgers versus Illinois. Give me Rutgers. Yeah, give me the Scarlet Knights. They're 6-4. Both these teams are going bowling. It's not a horrible Big Ten football game, if I'm being honest. You get Rutgers with back-to-back victories over Minnesota and Maryland. For Illinois, they're coming off that victory over Michigan State. Luke Altmaier's been all right this season. For Rutgers, again, the first season without Gavin Wimsatt, obviously, so it's been Kalamankis, who got his, revenge win a couple weeks ago against Minnesota, but then they beat Maryland last week, too. Going on the road and winning that football game is absolutely huge for the Scarlet Knights. I like what they've got going, man. I do. I get it, Illinois might be slightly the better football team, but recently, Rutgers has been playing good football in back-to-back weeks. Now they get Illinois at home. It's on Peacock. But I do think Rutgers will win this football game. Them being at home is a big deal in this one. Going up to New Jersey and trying to win this football game for Illinois, I think is really difficult. I don't know why they're still ranked. Are they actually still ranked? Why does it say that? I guess they are. They're ranked 24. That's horrible. They should not be ranked. I like Rutgers a lot in this football game. I do. Give me Kalamankis and the guys. They should be able to run all over them, obviously, with Monagai. Demir Miller's been a really good receiver this season as well for Rutgers. I get it. Illinois is coming off a victory where they beat Michigan State, but Michigan State right now has been piss poor against everybody. We're expecting Michigan State, obviously, to bounce back this week against Purdue, but I do think Rutgers is going to go out there and win this football game. At home, I like what they're able to do. Give me Kalamankis and Monagai and company with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to win this football game. Win this football game at home against the Illinois Fighting Illini. Next up, we go to Iowa, going on the road to Maryland. Maryland has disappointed me, I'm not going to lie. I was expecting a lot more last week from the Terrapins. After watching them stay somewhat competitive with Oregon the week before, I was expecting a lot more. And you know what, guys? That might just be Oregon's not that good right now. I'm just saying, I don't know if Oregon's peaking at the right time. You know what that means? Indiana is going to beat them in the Big Ten championship game. We'll get to that. I don't know. Maryland, they lost to Rutgers last week. Did not look that great. Billy Edwards, obviously, back at starting quarterback after he kind of got benched at the end of their game against Oregon. They officially, solidified Edwards as a starting quarterback like they should by starting him against Rutgers. Wasn't his fault. They lost the football game. He threw for 335 yards. I don't know. I don't really trust Maryland to do anything, though, especially now they get Iowa, a good defense. I get it. Iowa lost last week to UCLA on the road. Now they got to go to Maryland on the road. It should be okay. I really think it'll be all right for Iowa. I think they'll win this football game. Now, their starting quarterback's out. Brendan Sullivan's out. So does that mean does it mean McNamara starting again? No way. It's got to mean McNamara starting, right? Wait. Oh, no, McNamara's out. I totally forgot. McNamara tore his ACL, right? Wait. Yeah, no, McNamara tore his ACL. Who the hell is their third-string quarterback? Wait, no, McNamara did not tear his ACL. That was year before. I'm so tripping. Why did I think McNamara got hurt this year? That was just, I know, okay, last year he did tear his ACL. I thought he got hurt again this year. Apparently he didn't. He just got benched. Okay, Cade McNamara's back. Yeah, that's not great, but Iowa should still be able to game manage their way through victory here. And Cade McNamara, for that matter, should be able to. They lost to UCLA because they couldn't run the football. Caleb Johnson, it was his worst game of the season with only 49 rushing yards. I wouldn't expect that to happen in back-to-back games. I do think, Iowa is going to be able to put BTA on Maryland here. I think their secondary should hold up, and I just don't know how many points Maryland can physically score against this Iowa team. And again, as long as Iowa, and honestly, Caleb Johnson had his best running games when Cade McNamara was at quarterback. Coincidence, 100%. But give me Iowa to win this football game with Cade McNamara back in the spotlight. McNamara and company will get it done on the road at Maryland. Maryland has just been, their offense, has been stagnant. They kind of, they'll get into plus territory and they'll completely stall out. I do like what Iowa, should be able to do in this football game. They should go on the road and they should beat up on Maryland. I like their defense a lot. I don't know how much Maryland's able to score, but I do think Iowa does it, and they will cover the spread as well of 6.5. Next up, we go to Syracuse. Syracuse is playing a non-conference game this late in the season against the UConn Huskies. Syracuse has this game, then they play Miami next week, obviously, which we talked about earlier. Syracuse by a million. Why were they underdogs against Cal? Why were they? I don't understand it. I don't understand why they were dogs at Cal. Cal's not a good football team, guys. They're just not. Cal is not good this season. And Cal is going to get one. They're going to get Stanford this week, and I don't think that's going to go too well for Cal. Again, maybe they win, but covering the spread, it's going to be difficult. That's going to be difficult. Syracuse 7-3. I like Kyle McCord a lot. I do. I know he had a bad game at Pitt. I understand that. But Kyle McCord since then has only posted great numbers. They win the overtime game against Virginia Tech. They lose, at Boston College when they go to Cal and win the football game. Now they get UConn. UConn is on a 3-game winning streak. They're 7-3 this season. They are going bowling, but there is a stark contrast between UConn, who again is a group of 5 independent, and Syracuse, who is honestly one of the better teams in the ACC this season. Now with Pitt falling off a cliff, you can make the case Syracuse is the 4th best team in the ACC, and I don't think many people are going to fight you on that. Kyle McCord has had a great senior season. I mean, just look at his numbers. Kyle McCord's going to finish with 4,000 yards of the season, including his bowl game. I mean, he's got 3,500, 24 touchdowns, 12 picks. 5 of those come in that one game against Pittsburgh? I think, again, in a rematch, I think Syracuse probably beats Pitt, just the way Pitt's been playing. I like Syracuse to win this football game. I think they absolutely dominate UConn. I get it, UConn's won 3 in a row. They're getting respect here, but the last time they played an ACC school, they lost to Wake Forest by 3 points. Again, look where Wake Forest is right now. Compare them to where Syracuse is at right now. Syracuse is the much better football team. They should absolutely destroy UConn. 10.5 is not enough in the JRA Wireless Dome. Give me Syracuse to dominate the football game and cover the 11.5 points or 10.5 points as well. Next up, we go to Boston College, as they will be hosting North Carolina, a UNC team. I didn't know if they were going to, go bowling this season. They started 3-4. They have won 3 games since. Now they are going bowling, and they will be taking on BC, a team that, again, is looking for one win to make a bowl game. Will it come tonight or on Saturday? I think so, actually. I think they beat North Carolina. Boston College has been better. Obviously, Thomas Castellanos no longer with the team. He left after being benched. Grayson James, the junior quarterback out of Duncanville, Texas, is now the starting quarterback for Boston College. That's fine. Of course, you still got that 3-headed monster at running back. It's been a lot of Robichaux recently, I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, Ward and Richard are still there as well. This team impressed me, though, against SMU. In a loss on the road at Dallas, they impressed me. I was surprised of the effort that we got out of Boston College in that football game. I get it, UNC's on a 3-game winning streak, but who have they played? Virginia on the road. Okay, that was when Virginia was at its lowest. Florida State, they're Florida State. And then Wake Forest at home, they win the game by 7 points. Good win, but not a crazy impressive win. You know, Jacoby Criswell, obviously the starting quarterback. Omarion Hampton, I mean, the team runs through him. Omarion Hampton, again, has posted 100 yards in every single game with the exception of their Charlotte victory. It's insane, the season that Omarion Hampton is having. I mean, you've got some really great running backs this season in college football. Obviously, again, Ashton Genty's getting all the shine, but Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, I mean, these guys are balling out this season. Again, 244 yards last week for Omarion Hampton against Wake Forest. I think BC, they play the run all right, and I think Boston College is actually going to win this football game. It's at home. They're fighting for their bowl lives. Will they beat Pitt next week? Maybe, the way Pittsburgh has been heading. But again, I do like the change and the mix-up at quarterback with Grayson James. He brings life into this football team. I really think he does. Can be Boston College to win the game at home. They will cover the 3 points as well. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be a close football game, but I do like BC to go out there and pick up the victory. Next up, we move on to the Conference USA. Maybe I should have made this a feature game, I'm not going to lie, because these are 2 good teams in this USA, and with the way Western Kentucky played last week, Western Kentucky, actually, no, they're not in the outs because they beat Sam Houston, so we're fine here. Wait, yeah, we're fine. Western Kentucky's getting in. Western Kentucky, I'll get to them in a minute, man. That was so disappointing last week. The Middle Tennessee loss, I mean, are we serious? Oh, God. These are Sam Houston, Jacksonville State. The winner of this game is getting into this USA Championship game. It's that simple. Well, Jacksonville State plays Western Kentucky next week. That will throw another wrench into all of this. But basically, no, you win this game and you're in. Yeah, you win this game and you're in. Next week still matters, obviously, but the winner of this game will get into this USA Championship. It's just a matter of, is Western Kentucky going to get in as well if they win next week? Or, no, if Jacksonville State wins, though, and if Jacksonville State wins this week and WKU wins this week, then it clinches both their spots in this USA Championship. So the next week's game at Bowling Green in Kentucky doesn't really matter because both those teams are going to be in the conference championship game anyway. So that's how that works. Regardless, I don't know who wins the football game. I will ever so slightly go with Jacksonville State. My thing is, I just think 6 points is too much. For a Sam Houston team who's been playing really good football recently, I get their only loss is WKU. I will still stand by the fact I think Western Kentucky is the best team in this USA. I think they will still win this USA after last week's mishap. Sam Houston plays excellent defense, and I get it. They've been playing really piss-poor football teams, FIU, Louisiana Tech, and Kennesaw State, but they've held those teams to 7-3 and 17. Like, you know, they've been playing good defense all year long, and when they need to go out there and win a big football game, I get it's not a non-conference game, they beat Texas State, who is a high-scoring, explosive offense with Jordan McLeod obviously leading the offense. Sam Houston went there and won that football game 40-39. I don't mind Sam Houston at all in this football game. I think they are able to go to Jacksonville State and keep the game close. Are they going to win the football game? I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. But Hunter Watson has been doing okay. Obviously, he's a much better runner than he is thrower. But Sam Houston should be able to stay in this football game. Their defense is what's going to keep them in it, obviously. You know, you got Tyler Huff and Trey Stewart, 2 excellent runners. And Tyler Huff, obviously, their quarterback, too, for Jacksonville State. I just think that the Bearcats are able to keep it close. Look at the last 2 games Jacksonville State has played. 3-point win over FIU, 7-point win over Louisiana Tech. Not great teams that, again, Sam Houston's beating as well. But both these teams are beating them by close margins. I think this game's going to be extremely close. I think it's going to go down to the wire. I do think the Gamecocks get it, but I think Sam Houston definitely stays in the football game. Let's move on to our next one. We've got 2, SECs versus absolute small schools, so we're going to go over these really quickly. Georgia at home against UMass. I credit the SEC schools here in Georgia and Tennessee for taking these games instead of being like South Carolina and playing Wofford, or being like Clemson and playing the Citadel, who once upon a time gave Bama a kind of tough game like 5 years ago. Georgia should beat the brakes off of UMass, I think. But do they cover the 42, though? That's a whole other thing. Give me UMass. Yeah, give me UMass. Give me UMass to cover the 42 points. It's a lot. UMass has actually been kind of competitive. They only lost the game by 25 points to Mississippi State. I know it's a lot, but they were close with Mississippi State in that first half. They had the lead in the first quarter, and the Bulldogs pulled away. Again, I get it. Mississippi State's a whole different monster in the SEC compared to what, again, Georgia is. But UMass, again, they lost to Missouri 45-3, and they got that game at home. No, I think UMass covers. I think they do. They just fired their coach. I don't really know what that does for them, but they fire their coach. And they're able to keep it respectable here. Guys, okay, hear me out. They lose the game by 38 points. Okay? Like, I don't know what you want me to say about this. Don't bet on the football game. Georgia's coming off a huge win over Tennessee, obviously. Great for them. I'm happy. Again, Carson Beck finally showed up in a big moment, basically punching Georgia's ticket in to the playoffs. They have UMass and Georgia Tech coming up. They should win both those football games. Georgia Tech's going to be a little difficult, but they should win it. So shout out to Carson Beck for finally coming through. UMass doesn't stand a chance to win the game. We are taking them to cover, but this is just a toss-up. Again, it's 42 points at the end of the season. Who knows, right? I mean, legitimately. Who knows with this game? And then who knows with our next one, too? Tennessee is hosting the University of Texas El Paso. Whoop, whoop. What a football game. Give me Tennessee to cover the 42 points. Why am I taking Tennessee to cover and not Georgia? Well, I think UMass is better than UTEP. I think UTEP's a team that lost to an FCS school this year in Southern Utah. Nebraska beat them by 33 points. If Nebraska's beating them by 33 points, then Tennessee probably should do the same thing too, I think. UTEP's coming off a win over Kennesaw State. Good for them. Skylar Locklear, he can sling it, but he's going to have problems, and especially I think he's going to have problems keeping the football against this Tennessee defense. This is a game where Tennessee, again, just blows some steam off after losing to Georgia. Now, does Tennessee deserve to be in the playoffs? No. They do not deserve to be a playoff team, guys. Their big wins Alabama, but they lost to Arkansas and they lost to Georgia. I can fully go over the postseason, and I'll probably do that in next week's video when we have all the games sorted out and where I think each team's going to be. So then I will give you my 12-team playoffs, or at least my projected field going into the conference championship games. But I don't think Tennessee deserves to be in the postseason, guys. They're 8-2. I think Miami's more deserving right now. I think Miami's more deserving, even though I think they're going to lose to Syracuse. But I think Tennessee's going to be one of the first teams out. I don't think they deserve to be in. BYU losing does help them. But, Tennessee shouldn't be in over a one-loss Indiana. They shouldn't be in over, Notre Dame, Bama. I get they beat Bama. Oh, but Bama beat Georgia. That's the thing about the SEC, man. It's just they have so many good teams, and I don't know. We'll get to that. We will cross that bridge when we get there next week. For now, give me Tennessee to cover the 42 points against UTEP. We've seen them in smash spots already this season. Beat Chattanooga by 66. Beat Kent State by 71. Beat NC State by 41 points. It's another smash game. This is a game, again, they get to blow off their steam and just blow a team out. Give me the Volunteers to absolutely dominate UTEP. As we go on to our next one, Western Kentucky versus Liberty. Okay, perfect bounce back opportunity for WKU here. Just trust me on this one. Perfect bounce back opportunity. WKU is not going to have back-to-back stinkers. They played like crap in the Louisiana Tech game. They went for it on fourth down deep into Louisiana Tech territory at the end or early in the fourth quarter. Couldn't convert. They couldn't run the football to save their lives. It's not going to happen in back-to-back games, guys. Liberty's not that good. They're 7-2. They lost, of course, their back-to-back games at Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State. One back-to-back over Middle Tennessee and against UMass. Great. Don't care. They beat UMass by 1 point. They beat Middle Tennessee by 20, which, okay, yeah, Western Kentucky. Oh, they didn't lose to Middle Tennessee. Sorry, they lost to Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech's banned, and of course they continue to haunt us after their abysmal loss to New Mexico State a couple weeks ago, and they come back and somehow beat us here with Western Kentucky. Ridiculous. WKU is going to be fine. Again, this is the perfect buy low spot for the Hilltoppers. It is the absolute best buy low spot. They're not going to lose this game at Liberty. Liberty's not playing good football. Yeah, they're squeaking by, but this team's not that good. They are not the Liberty team of last season. Caden Salter, has taken a backseat to the run game into Quentin Cooley, the senior out of Bailey, North Carolina. I like WKU a lot in this game. Vet Camp's not going to have back-to-back bad games, guys. Western Kentucky will go on the road, and they will go to Virginia and win this football game. We get them at plus money all day long. Give me the Hilltoppers to clinch their spot in the CUSA championship game. Of course, we have that obviously with the Gamecocks winning a close one at home against Sam Houston. That would, again, clinch both WKU and Jacksonville State into the CUSA championship game. Give me WKU to win on the road against the Liberty Flames. Next up, we go back to the MAC. It's the only MAC game, if I'm not mistaken. I think, on Saturday. Yeah, it is. Bowling Green takes on Ball State. This is another one of these teams in the MAC, Bowling Green, that is fighting to be in the MAC championship game, obviously. We think Ohio is going to lose this week at Toledo, so it's a perfect opportunity for Bowling Green to sneak right in, and they should beat Ball State, guys. Ball State really impressed me last week against Buffalo, I'm not going to lie, but they're good enough just to lose. Bowling Green's the way better football team, and Bowling Green, I think it's an exciting team to get in the MAC championship. I really think it is. I want the national spotlight on Harold Fannin, who might be the best tight end right now in all of college football. He's that good. They use Harold Fannin a lot. Connor Bazelak, obviously the starting quarterback. Terrion Stewart is leading their team in rushing yards as well. And Bowling Green has won 4 straight games. They lost to Northern Illinois early in the season, but they've come back to beat Kent State, beat Toledo, beat Central Michigan, beat Western Michigan. They're 6-4 in the season. I'd expect them. I don't know if they're going to finish 8-4 because then they get a game against Miami of Ohio next week, which is a huge one. And probably, actually, that will let probably Ohio backdoor their way back into the, yeah. Ooh, no, but there's going to be a huge tie for second. I don't know. We're going to have to go over some scenarios here with the Mid-American Conference next week because there's a lot of stuff that can happen. Yeah, what I do know, though, is next week's game between Bowling Green and Miami of Ohio will determine one of the 2 teams in the MAC championship game. Now, if Ohio just needs to win 2 games and they're in. The rest will figure itself out. I like Bowling Green, though, to beat Ball State. The line, 12.5. Give me the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been playing better football. That's why I do think they can cover the 12.5 here. Bowling Green, isn't the highest scoring team for, yes, all the weapons they have on offense. They do have games where they just aren't that impressive. The game is in Bowling Green, so again, it's in Ball State. It's in Indiana. Oh, okay, yeah. So definitely, we like Ball State a lot in this one. I wouldn't expect Bowling Green to put on the best performance. Last time they were on the road, they only beat Central Michigan by 10 points. Again, I have no doubt in my mind that they're not going to beat Ball State. But Ball State's high-scoring offense should keep them in this football game and should allow for them to not get blown out. So give me the Ball State Cardinals to cover in this one over Bowling Green. Next up, we go on to Rice and UAB. We like the Rice Owls on the road here. They are, both these teams are out of it. Rice is 3-7. UAB is 2-8. Not much to talk about in this football game other than the fact that both these teams aren't very good. I don't know. Again, UAB has been better since Jalen Kitna has been the starting quarterback, and Rice obviously has E.J. Warner as their starting quarterback. I think Rice is the better football team. They've been playing better. Obviously, they won against Navy a couple weeks ago, lost a tough game last week on the road on a Friday night, 2 weeks ago on a Friday night against Memphis. Again, that's a brutal game. That's okay. They're going to go on the road and beat up on UAB here. The Blazers aren't that great. They don't play great defense. They give up a lot of points. Their offense, honestly, is not their problem. Jalen Kitna has been good, and Jalen Kitna, again, will be able to keep them in football games because of his arm talent and because of, again, the way that their pass offense plays. The problem is the rest of the team just isn't great. The rest of the team isn't awesome. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? That's one way to say it. Anyways, Jalen Kitna, again, he throws all right. He throws a lot of picks, though. That's kind of what holds UAB back, and also their defense just isn't good, and they can't run the football. So all that combined, we like the Rice Owls to win this football game. Again, give me E.J. Warner and the guys here from Rice to win this one. Again, both these teams are out of bowl contention, but we do like Rice to go on the road to UAB and win this football game and cover the 6.5 points as well. As we go on to another game here in the CUSA that I just who cares? New Mexico State versus Middle Tennessee. Who cares? New Mexico's 2-8. New Mexico State, is 2-8. New Mexico, the Lobos next week have a huge opportunity to become bowl eligible, beating Hawaii, hopefully, knock on wood. We'll get to that game next week, obviously. Shout out to my guys, though, Devin Dampier, Luke Wysong, and the guys. This is just a bad CUSA football game. The game's at Middle Tennessee, so we're going to take Middle Tennessee. I don't really have much else for you in this game. New Mexico State, they lose every single game other than the time I actually bet against them, the Louisiana Tech game. Shout out to Louisiana Tech. New Mexico State, I think they're going, it's Santino Mariucci, I believe, is their starting quarterback now, right? Parker Awad got benched. So yes, it is Santino Mariucci. Great. He's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. Middle Tennessee, they're not that good either, but they can throw the ball, and they're at home. So give me the Blue Raiders to cover the 3 points. Neither of these teams are very good, but I do like Middle Tennessee ever so slightly to win this football game. Next up, we go to App State versus James Madison. Again, James Madison, we say it every week, but a tough team to pick when they're on the road because their offense is great. Alonzo Barnett, right? You got the run game with George Pettaway. They can put numbers on you. Right? You look at the North Carolina game. They win it 70-50, okay? That's the expectation for James Madison. Since then, though, they haven't been that good on the road. They finally won a road game last week at Old Dominion. Now they go back on the road for this game against App State. James Madison is out of it in the Sun Belt, right? Yeah, Marshall controls their own destiny. Actually, Marshall's got a tough game this week, though, that we're going to get to. It's a really tough game for Marshall that they have. App State trying to fight to remain bowl eligible. I don't know how they do it because they got their game against Liberty canceled. Maybe they reschedule that. Probably not. So maybe App State only needs to win 5, but actually they're probably out of it unless they can win back-to-back games. They're probably not beating James Madison, though. Let's just be honest with ourselves. JMU gets this game again at Appalachian State. James Madison's got too explosive of an offense. I get it again. James Madison on the road, difficult. But Alonzo Barnett last week, 3 touchdowns, hit a big, throw a long touchdown pass to Ymir Knight in that game as well. I think James Madison should be fine. I get it, they're on the road and they don't play as well on the road than they do at home, but they should be able to beat a very middling App State team that lost to Coastal Carolina last week. Joey Aguilar is not horrible, but he throws a lot of interceptions, and their run game, simply put, just is not that good. So give me James Madison to go on the road. Again, it is tough picking the Dukes on the road. I get it, but they should be able to cover the 7 points. I hope. They need to win this game because they are definitely still in things. Wait, are they still in things? Hold on. I gotta check tiebreakers real quick. No, they are. Oh, regardless of if Marshall wins or not this week, they're still in it because they play Marshall next week. Yeah, JMU's still in it. JMU's definitely still in the Sun Belt. They got to win this game. It's a must win. I think they put BTA on the road in this one. Give me the James Madison Dukes to go to Appalachian State and win the football game in North Carolina. Next up, we go to the Big 12. Arizona takes on TCU. Arizona finally did something for us last week. I've been that pick has been so many weeks in the making, me picking Arizona to actually Arizona actually winning a football game. Guys, you don't understand. I've picked Arizona almost every single week. It's all right, eventually Fafita and McMillan got to come through. Eventually they got to actually win a football game. And they finally did it last week against Houston. I mean, round of applause for the Arizona Wildcats. Finally getting one done. But you know what's going to happen now? They're going to Texas Christian to get absolutely slaughtered. They're going to Fort Worth, and then they're not coming out of that football game. Give me TCU to absolutely destroy Arizona. And I'll be honest with you guys, I've been kind of hating on TCU all season long. Not directly, but just I've picked against them a lot. I'll pick them here, though. Arizona's a different team on the road than they are at home. They had a great game last week, but you know what that means? They're not having back-to-back great weeks. Arizona, good for them. They finally won a football game. They need to win back-to-back to become bowl eligible. Well, 1, they're not beating Arizona State next week, and 2, they're not winning this football game. It's disappointing is the way you can market this Arizona team this season, okay? This team was supposed to win the Big 12 this season. They were the favorites to win the Big 12 this season, and now they're 4-6. Don't get me wrong, Noah Fafita's only a sophomore. He's only going to get better. But this is the last time he's ever going to have McMillan. McMillan's going in the draft. He's going to be a top 15 pick. It's rough. We'll see how Arizona is next year. I don't think they're going to win this football game. Give me Josh Hoover and the Texas Christian Horned Frogs to win this game at home against Arizona and to cover the 11.5 points as well. Next up, we go back to the CUSA. I swear, the CUSA just puts us through some miserable football games. Kennesaw State versus Florida International. Guys, give me Kennesaw State to cover the 9.5 points. I get it, Kennesaw's lost 3 in a row, but look at the teams they played and look at the scores in which they lost, right? Okay, actually go 4 games. Now go 5 games back, okay? Middle Tennessee lost on a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night. They lost 14-5 on the road. One of the worst football games I've ever watched. We had Middle Tennessee minus 11.5. Didn't hit for us. Then they go and beat Liberty the week after. Great. They lose to Western Kentucky. They lose to UTEP by 8 points. They fire their coach. Then they get Sam Houston at home and lose the football game by only 6 points. Impressive. The Owls, again, were a powerhouse of the FCS. They fire their coach in their first season in the FBS. What did you expect? And now here they are, okay? Is Davis Bryson all that? No, he's not. He's only a sophomore. I'd expect Davis Bryson to probably be back here, but I mean, there's a reason Kennesaw State was the team that everybody would go to in Road to Glory if you were a 1-star recruit in the video game. But anyways, I mean, back-to-back losses in overtime for Kennesaw. It's all right, double overtime loss to UTEP last week or 2 weeks ago, and then an overtime loss by 6 points to Sam Houston. I think Kennesaw should be okay. I think they will. I think they should be able to cover here against Florida International. It's a couple things, honestly. Kennesaw is getting better. They're staying in football games, and for FIU, they're just not that good. They beat New Mexico State. Doesn't count. New Mexico State's horrible. They got Keone Jenkins. He's doing all right. They lost to Jacksonville State last week. They stayed in the football game. But you know what? Again, you've got 2 teams in Florida International and Kennesaw State that have been playing competitive football games against other teams in this USA, which, again, is probably the worst conference in all college football at the FBS level. Let's just keep it honest. Let's be honest with ourselves, guys. It's Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, Sam Houston. Liberty's not bad, but they're very fraudulent, and then everybody else sucks. Okay? I think, again, these 2 poor CUSA teams who have been playing close conference games should just be able to play a close game against each other, right? So give me the Owls. Give me Kennesaw State to win this game. They are at home too, so we're going to take the plus 9.5 at home for the Kennesaw State Owls. Next up, we go to Arkansas State versus UL Monroe. The fall off of UL Monroe has to be studied, man. 5-1 to start the season. We were talking about potential Sunbelt Championship game for UL Monroe for the Warhawks. And now they're 5-5. Now, did we expect them to beat Auburn last week? Definitely not. Good for Peyton Thorne through his career high in touchdowns last week against UL Monroe. Can UL Monroe win 1 of 2 to close out the season to make a bowl game? The answer to that is no. They're not beating the Raging Cajuns next week, so this is their shot on the road at Arkansas State. I like the Red Wolves here. I do. I like Jalen Raynor and the guys here at Arkansas State to win this football game. Did I say Jalen Raynor earlier was somewhere else? I think I did. Did I? I might have messed up and said Jalen Raynor was at, like, James Madison. No. I might have butchered that. I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. Regardless, Jalen Raynor has been great for Arkansas State. He has. I wouldn't actually, great's an overstatement. He's great in wins, okay? Like, Jalen Raynor plays great in the games they win. The games they lose, it's because Jalen Raynor doesn't play that well. I mean, seriously, just look at this. South Alabama, they win the game 18-16. Jalen Raynor, 345 passing yards. The win over Troy, Jalen Raynor, 349 passing yards, 71 rushing yards. They lose to Louisiana. He's got 167 passing yards. And the win over Georgia State, sure, didn't do much in the pass game, but 114 rushing yards. Like, again, their entire team is based around Jalen Raynor. If Raynor's able to get it going, okay, then they're going to be fine. If not, they're in trouble. Jaquez Cross is their leading rusher, out the backfield. Obviously Raynor is going to take off himself. Raynor, obviously, again, he throws some 50-50 balls that are ill-advised sometimes, and he does throw some interceptions. That is, kind of the backbone. That's what kind of hurts Arkansas State at points. I get that, but I'd expect them to beat this UL Monroe team that just has not been playing good football. General Booty got benched. They went to, of course, Aiden Armetta. Armetta had them at 5-1, and they haven't won a game since. Their run game has been good. It wasn't good last week against Auburn, obviously, but Ahmad Hardy is 25 yards away from cracking 1,000, so good for him. Good for the freshman for UL Monroe. Again, bright future ahead, but I think it's a rough game. They got to go on the road to Arkansas State. I like the Red Wolves to win this football game. Give me Jalen Raynor and the guys to beat UL Monroe. We're only getting, 3 points in this game? Yeah, I like it a lot for Arkansas State. Give me the Red Wolves to win at home and to cover the spread. As we now go to, we stay in the Sun Belt. The Fun Belt. Southern Miss versus South Alabama. Can South Alabama become bowl eligible? The answer is pretty clearly yes. They're 22.5 point favorites. Do they cover that line? I'm going to go with yes. They're on the road at Southern Miss. I get it. But Southern Miss, if it wasn't for Kent State, Southern Miss would be laughed at as the worst team in college football. They're so bad. Jordan, I got that right. I said, I mixed up Jordan McLeod and Jalen Raynor. Yeah, Jordan McLeod and Texas State, that's who I was mentioning earlier. That's who I was bringing up. Jordan McLeod and Texas State had 704 yards of offense against Southern Miss last week. You heard me right. 704. Oh, my goodness, that's bad. Guys, Southern Miss has been outscored, if I can do math real quick, let me, 95-6 the last 2 games. It's horrible. If you want to include the week before, then it's math. Come on. 126-21. They have been outscored in the last 3 football games. Guys, that's horrible. That's horrible. I don't care they're at home. South Alabama runs right through them. Guys, South Alabama is coming off their biggest win of the season. They went to Louisiana and beat the Raging Cajuns, a team that is still probably going to win the Sun Belt West, but a team that South Alabama did spoil. I mean, again, the Raging Cajuns had a very small hope of making the college football playoffs. That's gone now, and you can thank South Alabama for that. I didn't think the Jaguars had it in them. I'll be honest. I didn't think Gio Lopez and the guys had it in them. Jamal Pritchett is at 940 receiving yards. He will crack 1,000 this season. He's put up huge numbers in the last 3 games. He's kind of come out of nowhere. 90 yards against UL Monroe, 107 out of the Georgia Southern game, 170 last week in the win over the Raging Cajuns. An excellent game played by South Alabama, and now they're going to beat the crap out of the worst team in college football, Southern Miss. Guys, I want to see it. Can we make it happen? Southern Miss, let's start a movement going, guys. Southern Miss versus Kent State in the Toilet Bowl later this year. Let's do it. You know, we got the national championship game. Let's get Southern Miss versus Kent State, and hear me out. Let's put some stipulations on it. I haven't checked up with the FCS in a minute. I'm just gonna get someone right here. The winner of this game, okay, it's still NDSU. That's what I thought. The loser of Kent State and Southern Miss has to go down to the FCS. And you gotta go to the Big Sky. You gotta play in that brutal conference known as the Big Sky. Wait, no, not the Big Sky. Wait, God, what is? I don't know FCS football by heart. What is the conference NDSU's in? Because they're in the Summit League for basketball, but I know for a fact it's no Summit League. The Missouri Valley, got it. I know it's a gauntlet though. Okay, Big Sky's a good conference too. Don't get me wrong. Montana, Sac State just lost to Cal Poly, but I mean, there's some Davis, there's some good teams in the Big Sky. I know that. I'm familiar with that obviously because I'm in the area. But the loser of Kent State, Southern Miss, you got to go to the Missouri Valley. You get replaced by North Dakota State, and then have fun next year playing. Oh wait, Montana? No, yeah, good. Have fun playing next year against South Dakota State, Missouri State, South Dakota, Illinois State. Have fun. Truthfully, guys, where do you think? Actually, hear me out. I think Kent State beat Southern Miss. Where do you think Southern Miss lands in the Missouri Valley? Do you think they beat South Dakota State? I don't think so. I don't think they beat Missouri State. I don't think they beat Missouri State. South Dakota, probably not. Illinois State, probably not. They probably beat Indiana State, Youngstown, North Dakota, Southern Illinois, Northern Iowa, and Murray State. But I don't even think Southern Miss wins the Missouri Valley. So let's make it happen, guys. Let's do a toilet bowl. Kent State, Southern Miss, end of the season. Loser goes down to the Missouri Valley, and we send the Bison up. Okay, that's my proposal. Anyway, South Alabama by 1,000,000. Let's move on. We go on to our next football game. We've got the Charlotte 49ers going on the road to Florida Atlantic. I am never picking Florida Atlantic ever again. They're not banned because I only ban teams that I bet a high amount of money on. But I'm never picking Florida Atlantic again this season. Actually, what did they cover last week? Oh, they might have covered actually. I think they might have covered, if I'm not mistaken. No, they were favorites to beat Temple, weren't they? Why were they favorites to beat Temple? Were they? I don't remember. Regardless, we're never picking FAU again. These are two teams in FAU and Charlotte who just fired their head coaches, which is something. You know, Charlotte hasn't won a football game since their win over East Carolina. Don't know how they won that game once upon a time. They beat Rice too this season. FAU has lost 5 in a row. They just fired their coach as well. This is going to be a crapshoot, guys. It's going to be absolutely atrocious. Two horrible football teams are playing each other. What do we expect? I don't know. Deshaun Purdy's okay for Charlotte. Is Fancher still starting for FAU? No, they benched him, right? Yeah, it's Case Wiseman, who has not been any better than Cam Fancher at all. Yeah, give me Charlotte. Charlotte's slightly better than FAU. FAU has just been abysmal. They still haven't won a game in the American Conference this season. Yeah, they went to overtime with Temple, but they lost. They got blown out. They get blown out every other week. Other than that, Charlotte, I get they're not very good, but at least they've won a game in the conference this season. Purdy's still at quarterback. Yeah, give me Charlotte to win. Both these teams just fired their coaches, so personally, I don't know what to expect, but give me Charlotte to win the football game and cover the 2.5 points as well. Next up, we go to a big one. Not a feature game because I think the outcome's pretty easy to pick here. Obviously, the winner. The spread, we'll see. We'll talk about it in a minute, but give me Texas. Give me Texas to beat Kentucky, and sure, I'll take them on the spread too. Kentucky's just been abysmal in the SEC this season. Their only win is Ole Miss, which, you know, Ole Miss is good now. So shout out to Jackson Dart. He's going to be the best quarterback in college football next season. I think he'll be on the cover of the video game next year as well. The guy's that good. Kentucky needs to win back-to-back games to go bowling. They're not beating Texas. They could beat Louisville just because Louisville just lost to Stanford. And how do you lose to Stanford? I don't know. They lost to that, roaring crowd over there in Palo Alto that, I'm sure that shook up Louisville. God. Texas should beat the crap out of Kentucky. Kentucky's not good, guys. They're not. Brock Vandagriff struggles to throw for yards. Their run game struggles against anybody. So with that being said, how do we expect Kentucky to cover the 20.5 points against Texas? If anything, if you're picking Kentucky here, which I'm not, you're expecting Texas to kind of collapse and Texas to kind of continue to be just a little bit lackluster. They're good. They're not. I don't think their best team in the country good right now. I think maybe they'll figure it out. Next week's a huge game though. I mean, Texas at Texas A&M at Kyle. Is that Kyle Field or is that a neutral site? I think it's at Kyle Field, right? Yeah, that's a game, man. I don't know. I have not been high on A&M all season. but you get those 104,000 people in the stadium for A&M versus Texas, and let's see what happens. This game, though, no doubt in my mind, Texas doesn't beat Kentucky and covering the spread something else, but they'll definitely win the game. Will they cover? I don't know. We need to see a Texas game like we got at the Florida performance. Not a game like Arkansas. I know they won the game, but again, they weren't overly impressive in the Arkansas game. The Vandy game, they won it by 3 points on the road. Texas has been a lot better at home than they've been on the road all season, and that's why, again, with the exception of the Georgia game and the Michigan game, but whatever. That's why I kind of fear for them next week. Going to A&M is going to be brutal. I'm just saying. I think it's a really difficult game next week for Texas. I really think it is. I think they beat up on Kentucky here, though. They've got the way better team, obviously. Give me the Longhorns to win at home and to cover the 20.5 points here against Kentucky. Next up, we go on to Michigan hosting Northwestern, of course, at the Big House. Give me Michigan here. Northwestern would be considered the worst team in the Big Ten if it wasn't for good old Purdue. But actually, no, Northwestern beat Maryland. So I guess, no, they're not the worst team at all. Because it's Maryland, even though Maryland looks better than Northwestern, even though Northwestern beat them, and we actually picked Northwestern to cover that game against Maryland once upon a time. But Maryland just looks like a better football team compared to them in Northwestern. But regardless, for the Michigan Wolverines, right, back-to-back losses to Oregon and Indiana. But you know what? The Indiana game, I was kind of impressed. I was impressed with Michigan. They've got to win one of two here to become bowl eligible. They will be going bowling this season because they're going to beat Northwestern. They're going to go from national champs to 6-6 in the. What's a bowl game they can make? We'll put them in the Cheez-It Bowl this season. Yeah, what a fall from grace for the Michigan Wolverines. But, the Big Ten, by the way, the Big Ten might have almost everyone going bowling this year except for, 2 teams. It's crazy. With the exception of Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue, and UCLA, everybody else could go bowling in the Big Ten this season, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. This game, though, give me Michigan to beat Northwestern. The quarterback play for Michigan is just, it is what it is. Davis Warren, obviously, is the guy. Alex Orji has his sets where he will come in, and again, the announcers go, or there's an Orji on the field, right? And then, and Orji will run, obviously, because he has his, design sets. But Davis Warren's a starting quarterback. I don't think he's great. Obviously, no one thinks he's great. But if there was ever a game, guys, where Michigan is able to put up a lot of points, it's this one. I think we have a huge Cleo Mullings day. Maybe Donovan Edwards rises from the dead one time. And I think Michigan wins the football game, and I do think they cover the 12.5 points as well. We will stay in the Big Ten for our next one at Nebraska and Wisconsin. We talk about teams trying to become bowl eligible in the Big Ten. Well, these are 2 teams trying to become eligible in the Big Ten. Nebraska 5-5, Wisconsin 5-5. Wisconsin's the better football team. I don't care the game's in Nebraska. Wisconsin's the much better team, and just trust me on this one, okay? Hear me out. Wisconsin has lost 3 straight games. That is to Penn State, Iowa, and to Oregon. They were competitive in the Oregon game, obviously. Sure, people might be a little bit high on Wisconsin because of the way they played the Ducks last week, but this is more of Nebraska sucking than Wisconsin being good. Nebraska, Indiana lost 56-7. By the way, we're going to get a sneak preview for our big prediction I'm talking about. Our first feature game, I'll just say it, is Indiana and Ohio State. Boy, do I have something to say about that football game. Regardless, though, Nebraska lost to Indiana 56-7. What did they lose to Ohio State by? 21-7. They went on the road to play both those teams. And you're telling me Indiana's a 13-point dog against the Buckeyes? That's highway robbery. Anyways, Nebraska, by the way, guys, Nebraska and their losses, let's just look at something here. Nebraska and their losses this year in the Big Ten. They have been competitive with every team in their losses, except for the Hoosiers. 31-24 loss against Illinois. 21-17 loss against Ohio State on the road. 27-10 loss against UCLA is absolutely horrible. One of the worst football games I've ever seen Nebraska play, ever. And I've seen a lot of bad football from the Cornhuskers. And an 8-point loss on the road at SC. Everything one-score games, except for Indiana, who beats them by 49 points. This is a Nebraska team that beat Colorado by 18 this year. It doesn't make sense, but you know what? Nebraska is so pitiful right now. They're absolutely horrible. Dylan Raiola is not good. He's a freshman, so he's going to get better. But this year, no, he's bad. Wisconsin's winning this football game. I don't care what Wisconsin's trotting out there. I don't care that, they can't throw the football. Yeah, Brandon Locke's he's not great. He throws a lot of picks too. I don't give a damn. Wisconsin's winning this football game. They're going to go on the road and beat Nebraska. Nebraska is absolutely horrible. Dylan Raiola, last couple games has had zero mobility. He gets sacked all the time. They rely on their run game because Raiola is doing nothing in the pocket. Give me Wisconsin all day long on the road to beat up on Nebraska. And oh, here we go. California, Stanford. Why is Stanford a 14-point dog at Cal? I am no Stanford homer. I used to like Stanford once upon a time when Christian McCaffrey, Toby Gerhart, Andrew Luck. I know different time periods, but still, I go in order. Toby Gerhart, Andrew Luck, Ty Montgomery, Christian McCaffrey, Bryce Love played there. I was a big Stanford fan growing up as a kid. I have no association to Stanford anymore. I will go to Stanford. Actually, I went to one Stanford game this year. That's about it. Yikes. But I have no association to Stanford anymore. It's not a homer pick. They are not losing by more than 14 points to California. I think California is so bad, man. Like, I have picked against Cal almost every single week. Last week, though, that was highway robbery. Getting Syracuse at plus money against California, ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying Stanford's going to beat Cal. 14 points feels just like too much, though, in this game. Okay? Stanford is coming off a win over Louisville. That's the best Stanford's going to look all season. But they do get to play their rivals now in California. And what have I been saying all season long what Stanford should be doing? They should be playing Ashton Daniels 100% of the time. They just should. He's better than Justin Lamson. He definitely is. He's better than Justin Lamson. He's better than Elijah Brown. It should be Ashton Daniels 100% of the time. And look what happens. When you give Ashton Daniels the entire game against Louisville, they win. Given there was some circumstances in that game which propelled them to victory. Obviously, Louisville missing the 50-yard field goal, then the unsportsmanlike conduct gets Stanford into field goal range, and then the offsides makes a 52-yard field goal, a 47-yard field goal. Stanford knocks it in and wins the game. They storm the field, and all 1,000 fans storm the field in Palo Alto, California. I don't think Cal's that good. I get it. They've been limiting the turnovers recently, but in the Syracuse game, Fernando Mendoza threw 2 really bad interceptions. Javion Thomas is their best running back, obviously. Yes, coming into the season it was supposed to be Jaden Ott, but Javion Thomas averages 7 yards a carry. By the way, this is an easier way to say it. They have the same amount of carries in the season. Javion Thomas has 583 yards. Jaden Ott has 250 yards. That's all you need to know. Fernando Mendoza has been okay. Again, prior to the Syracuse game, he was really holding on to the football, taking care of the football, playing better, but that Syracuse game was a big step back for Fernando Mendoza. Yes, Cal made it closer at the end of the game, cut it to 8 points, but they were trailing by a lot that entire game. Jack Andrews is a good tight end for Cal, I'll give him that, but I don't like California at all this season, man. I think they beat Stanford, I'll be honest with you, but I don't think 14 points really dictates where this game's going to go. It's a game Cal absolutely needs to win if they're going to go bowling because they stand no chance on the road next week at SMU, so they need to win this football game. I think they will, but I feel like we get a pretty good price here at Stanford plus 14. Coming off the victory against Louisville, you know their guys going to be amped up to play Cal. At the same time, again, Cal's going to be amped up to play this game as well, but you know what? Again, it's the thing about rivalry games. The team that's usually not as good rises to the occasion in rivalry games. That's just what happens in football, for the most part. So Stanford should rise to the occasion. They should have the pride within themselves to not get blown out. They'll keep it close, but ultimately they'll lose the football game. Give me California to win, but Stanford to cover the 14 points. Next up, we go back to the Big 12, Oklahoma State versus Texas State. I mean, the award for most disappointing team of the season has to go to OK State. And you know what? I'm going to say I was a little ahead of the curve on this one, even though I was completely wrong in my assessment of Oklahoma State to start the season. But, well, after they beat South Dakota State, I'm going to say it, all right? I picked South Dakota State to beat Oklahoma State to start the year. It was my first big upset pick that I took. Obviously, we got it wrong. But I was like, you know what? I love the Jackrabbits. They're going to go into, Stillwater, and they're going to upset Oklahoma State. They're going to go in there and win this football game. They didn't, obviously. But Oklahoma State, they win the award for most disappointing football team of the season this year. Mike Grundy doesn't have his team under control. Obviously, again, I'm sure the offseason stuff with Ollie Gordon didn't help. Ollie Gordon was supposed to be the best running back in college football this year. He's certainly not that. He's going to struggle to break 900 yards this season. Alan Bowman's very old, and he doesn't play the best football, even though, sure, Bowman has kept them in some games sometimes, but he's completely lost them games at the same time as well. They've lost 7 straight games, guys, to Utah, Kansas State, West Virginia, BYU, Baylor, Arizona State, and TCU, all in the Big 12. What makes you think they're beating Texas Tech? I'm serious. Texas Tech 6-4. They're going bowling, coming off a loss to Colorado, but you know how good Colorado is. 2 weeks ago, they lost to Colorado. Beat Iowa State a couple weeks ago. I feel fine picking Texas Tech in this game. 3.5 feels really good. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Brennan Morton has been a very sneaky good quarterback this season. The run game, obviously, with Taj Brooks is really good, too. I just don't think Oklahoma State's able to match what Texas Tech's going to bring. Texas Tech is going to run the football right down your throat. I mean, Texas Tech has not had a game all season where Taj Brooks hasn't ran for more than 100 yards other than their loss in Pullman early in the year at Wazoo. They're going to run the ball right down their throats. You get Brendan Morton, too, who is not afraid to throw the football and sling it as well. I like the Red Raiders a lot in this football game. Oklahoma State has done nothing this season to prove to me that they can beat a team like Texas Tech. I don't know why the odds are where they are, probably just because the game's in Stillwater. But Oklahoma State, they're going to get slaughtered next week at Folsom against Colorado, and they're going to get slaughtered this week. They're just not going to be able to keep up with Texas Tech. It's going to be like the Arizona State game. They got Arizona State at home, and Arizona State beat them by 21 points. I get it. ASU's better than Texas Tech, but still, Texas Tech their offense is way too explosive. Give me the Red Raiders all day long to beat up on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Next up, we stay in the Big 12. West Virginia at home is hosting UCF. I like UCF in the spot. I really do. UCF's 4-6. They were better at one point in the season, obviously. They got to win back-to-back to go bowling. They'll get Texas Tech next week. Again, we think they're going to beat West Virginia. We'll see. West Virginia, again, West Virginia gets Texas Tech. UCF gets Utah next week. Very winnable game, by the way, for the Knights. So the Knights definitely have a very good chance of going bowling this season. I think they do get WVU in this game. Again, this is a team that had expectation at one point. They were favored by 14 points at home to beat Colorado, and now this is not the same team, obviously, with KJ Jefferson not being in the starting lineup anymore. It's Dylan Risk now for UCF. I get it, but RJ Harvey's still a very elite back in college football. He's, again, we want to talk about great backs, Marion Hampton, Ashton Genty. Well, RJ Harvey's third in college football in rushing yards. He's tied with Caleb Johnson for third. Shout out to Hughes, obviously, from Tulane. Mekhi Hughes from Tulane, who's also fifth in rushing yards this season as well. I don't mind UCF in the spot at all. West Virginia, I've never been high on this season. Even at the beginning of the year, I think they were going to have a chance against Penn State, and obviously they didn't. Last week they lost to Baylor, obviously. Garrett Green back in the lineup, back healthy. Garrett Green has not been all that great this season, though, so I'm not blown away with West Virginia at all. I don't think Morgantown at this point in the season, with the Mountaineers being 5-5, is that difficult of a place to go to. I think UCF will be able to win this football game, and again, there's hope for UCF to still go bowling this season, and even WVU in a loss. But I mean, hell, UCF wins this football game, then you get a Utah team that's really struggled this season at home. I don't mind it. UCF, again, they were competitive last week against a really good Arizona State team on the road. Again, you know how hard it is to go play on the road in Tempe, and UCF only lost the game by 4 points. I don't mind UCF at all in the spot. I really like them here. Give me the Knights to go to Morgantown and beat West Virginia and to cover the spread as well of 3 points. Next up, we go to the Mountain West. We have got San Diego State taking Utah State. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm taking Utah State to win a football game. You don't know how disappointed I was in Hawaii last week. God, man, how does a team look that bad after looking that good? Hawaii doesn't play this week. Now, it does give me a lot of hope for my guys in the New Mexico Lobos next week when they have to go to Hawaii. Devin Dampier, it's the fourth time I've mentioned Dampier today, but it gives me a lot of hope for New Mexico next week to go to Hawaii because Hawaii just lost 55-10 to Utah State. Utah State's so bad, man. They're not good. But you know who's worse? San Diego State's worse. Now, I will give one huge shout out on this two huge shout outs on this Utah State team. The senior quarterback, Spencer Petras. They went to Petras, obviously. They benched Bryson Barnes, who's only a sophomore. So they said, you know what? We're going with the senior this season. And he's been a lot better than Bryson Barnes. And I'll also give a huge shout out to Rashul Faison, who's also a senior out of Pottstown, Pennsylvania. He is 9 yards away from cracking the 1,000-yard mark this season. Those two guys dominated against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. They should dominate against San Diego State. San Diego State's not good. They're not a good football team. They are Marquez Cooper, and that's it. They're not good. This is low-level Mountain West football. There's a reason both these teams are 3-7. We like the home team, though, that's 3-7. Utah State's been playing the better football. They are at home. Everything in this game points to the Utah State Aggies winning this game. Give me Utah State to win. Cover the 3 points against San Diego State as well. 3.5, 3 points. Yeah, all day. Give me the Aggies of Utah State to win this football game. Next up, we go on to the Sun Belts. Back to the Fun Belt we go. Coastal Carolina and Myrtle Beach will host Georgia Southern. And yeah, we like... this is rough. I'll take Georgia Southern. I like Georgia Southern on the road here. They're 6-4. Coastal again fighting for their bowl lives. They'll probably get it next week at Georgia State because Georgia State still has not won a conference game. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you're a Chanticleers fan of them going bowling this season so they can make the Myrtle Beach Bowl at home. Georgia Southern's just a better football team. I'm surprised they're dogs in this game. I really am, actually. I'm really surprised we're getting JC French at plus money here. I think Georgia Southern's just a better football team. Right, they're coming off a loss to Troy last week. I get it. Beat South Alabama the week before. And again, South Alabama is the team that took down Louisiana. So that, a lot of emphasis has to be put on that Georgia Southern victory over South Alabama. Because what did South Alabama do right after that? They went out and beat the best team in the conference. So I give props to this Georgia Southern football team. They don't really run the ball that effectively. Their team really relies on JC French and his ability to scramble and throw the football. Which, it's all right. I can not scramble and get yards, but scramble and move outside the pocket and just make throws in the run. For the Chanticleers, Ethan Vasco's been their guy all season long. Vasco's been okay, but I don't trust the Chanticleers to win this game. They're 2-4 in conference this year. Their only wins are Appalachian State and Old Dominion. 2 shootouts, sure. And that's kind of, Georgia Southern will play that shootout style of game. It's all dependent on the Georgia Southern defense, I'm going to be honest with you guys, because I think Georgia Southern's offense will get them points. It's just a matter of if they can stop what Vasco and Coastal is going to have coming back on the other side. I get it. Home field advantage goes to the Chanticleers in this game, but I do think Georgia Southern's able to take this one home. Give me the Eagles to win this game on the road. They will cover the 2 points again as dogs, but we like the money line even better for Georgia Southern to go on the road to Myrtle Beach and beat the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Next up, we go on to East Carolina. East Carolina on the road takes on North Texas. We're going with the dogs here on the road. So back-to-back games, we're taking road dogs. Here in the American Conference, North Texas shouldn't be favored against anybody right now. I get it. They've played 4... Well, UTSA, we're going to put them in a really good category in the American. They've played 4 good teams in the American Conference. The really good teams, obviously, are Memphis, Tulane, and Army, even though Memphis is still a good team. Those are 3 really good teams. Now, we were thinking, okay, you know what? They've just played really good teams. North Texas is good this season, but they're just not on that level again of Memphis, of Tulane, and of Army. But no, they went to the Alamo Dome last weekend and got absolutely slaughtered. So I don't trust them to beat I don't trust them to beat East Carolina. They lost by 21 points to Texas San Antonio. Now they get East Carolina, a team that's 6-4. Again, an ECU team that, did I completely butcher what I was saying earlier about, No, we were fine. Forget that. ECU, 3 straight wins, Temple, FAU, and Tulsa. The Tulsa game was close, sure, but since they have gone to Caden Hauser, the former starting quarterback, for, of course, the Wisconsin Badgers last season, or Michigan State. It was him and Noah Kim. Noah Kim's at Coastal, we just talked about, who started 1 game this season. But since ECU went to Caden Hauser, they've been so much better. They've won 3 games with Hauser. They went to him for the Army game. They lost, but then they beat Temple, beat FAU, beat Tulsa. Hauser's thrown 269, 343, and 314 in those football games. Caden Hauser is the solution here at East Carolina. North Texas has not been impressive recently. They just have not. Chandler Morris hasn't looked like the same Chandler Morris in the last couple games. He, again, went from throwing 300 yards a game to throwing 200. Again, the reason why Chandler Morris throws for so many yards is because they can't run the ball. But the problem is they still can't run the ball, and Chandler Morris isn't throwing for as many yards anymore. I will give them, they did have 193 rushing yards last week with Shane Porter. That was Shane Porter's biggest game of his career. The 2 games prior to that one, Porter had 26 and 33 yards. That's just a one-hit wonder game for Shane Porter. I think East Carolina wins this football game. They've been playing better football. Caden Hauser, again, has that Big Ten experience. I think he goes on the road and beats North Texas in this game. North Texas in need of another win to make a bowl game. Maybe they get it at Temple next week. I'd expect them to. But in this one, we do like East Carolina to go on the road and win the football game. We get them at plus money. Even better. Next up, we stay in the American Conference. We have got Tulsa on the road taking on USF. This is just one of the games of all time. USF, they're 5-5 trying to become bowl eligible. They're definitely going to get there. They have 2 games against Tulsa and Rice, and I don't think Rice is all that bad. And I think going to Texas and playing Rice is actually a difficult football game. But I do expect South Florida to become bowl eligible this season because, again, I think they beat Tulsa this week, and I think it's pretty easy for them to win this football game. But they are getting 17.5, and that's why actually we are taking the Golden Hurricane to cover. Not because I think they're going to win. I really don't think they're going to win at all. But just look at the way Tulsa's been playing recently. And I get it. The UAB loss sticks out like a sore thumb. It does. Because they did lose that game 59-21 to a very bad UAB Blazers team. They gave UAB their only conference win this season. But Tulsa's only conference win is a huge win over UTSA, which look at them now. They just beat North Texas, right? The American is confusing. Other than, you get to the top of the conference, Army, Tulane, Memphis, kind of Navy. Those are the really good teams in the conference. Then it's everybody else. But for Tulsa, right, they've just kept games close. Losing to Temple by 10 points. I get it, Temple's horrible, but still. Beating UTSA by 1 point, 46-45. They did get blown out by UAB, but they only lost East Carolina by 7 points with Caden Hauser involved, right? I think they're able to keep this one within 17.5 against South Florida. Don't get me wrong, I think the USF Bulls pretty clearly and pretty obviously win this football game. It's not like they get tremendous quarterback play to Bryce Archie, but Bryce Archie kind of does everything they need him to do. The big key for him, obviously, is holding on to the football, and that's where I think Tulsa's able to swing this game a little bit with the spread. It's because I think they will be able to turn over Bryce Archie a little bit, 1 or 2 times in this one, and if they're able to force some turnovers, then Tulsa's just able to kind of hang around in this football game. And again, if they lose this one by 17 points, we cover. We like the Golden Hurricane to get it done. Again, they've had a piss-poor season, but you know what? Salvage the season for us, the Golden Hurricane, or Tulsa. Salvage the season for us and just cover one on the way out. Next week, the final game of the season, Tulsa plays FAU in a very winnable game that actually they probably will get done. The American Conference, again, there are 2 very distinct parts of the American Conference. It's the elite teams and then everybody else. Give me Tulsa to cover the 17.5 points on the road at USF, but we do like the Bulls to win the game outright. All right, we've got more games. Again, there's a lot of games this weekend, so here are the next slate, and then we will have our feature games after. I believe we have 10 games in the feature slate, or the featured games, if I'm not mistaken. But again, here it is. We've got a lot more games. We start things off here in the Atlantic Coast Conference. You have got the Louisville Cardinals at home hosting the Pittsburgh Panthers. Pittsburgh is incredibly disappointing right now. Again, they lose one game to SMU where they get absolutely steamrolled on the road. I was so high on Pitt going into that game. I was like, you know what? They're going to shock everybody as 8.5 point dogs and they're going to win. And they got blown out. But again, I'm willing to admit SMU is just that good. The problem for Pittsburgh is they have continued to look bad week in and week out after. For the Virginia game, they lose. Virginia had nothing going for them at that point of the season, and Virginia goes into Pitt and wins that football game, and then Pitt then loses to Clemson. Again, they played a way better game than I thought they were going to play against Clemson. They just didn't, Cade Klubnik had that huge 60-yard run at the end of the game when you thought Pitt maybe had it won. Clemson gets the big play with Cade Klubnik on the ground, and Clemson gets the win. Nate Yarnell had his best game as a member of the Pitt Panthers, 350 yards passing in that game. Again, Desmond Reed continues to do everything for Pittsburgh, though. 110 yards through the air, 70 yards on the ground. They now match up with Louisville. Guys, there's a chance Pittsburgh doesn't win a game to end the season. They'll go bowling somewhere, but this is a team that had playoff hopes at one point. Now they're probably going to be 7-5. I do think they cover against Louisville. Even in Louisville's wins, they don't blow anybody out. So I don't think they blow Pittsburgh out. I think Pittsburgh will remain in this football game. I would expect Nate Yarnell to get the start again with the Eli Holstein concussion. Pittsburgh, I think, will stay in this football game just because of the talent they have with guys like Desmond Reed. But I do think Louisville will win the football game. Again, Tyler Shaw, he's been playing college football since I was 5. That's a joke, but still. Louisville, they're 6-4 this season. Yeah, they're coming off loss to Stanford. That's partially why I'm taking Pittsburgh to cover the spread. But I don't really have a doubt in my mind that Louisville doesn't. Actually, no, I do have a doubt in my mind Louisville doesn't win the football game because if you can't beat Stanford, how are you going to, have confidence of them being Pittsburgh? Yeah, that's very true. Regardless, I'm taking Louisville to win the football game. They should be able to throw the ball all night long against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, we'll see if they play better defense. Obviously, again, they've played good passing offenses before, and they've shut them down. They did all right last week against Clemson. Obviously, they struggled mightily to stop the passing attack from Southern Methodist. But again, SMU is a whole other monster, so it is what it is in that sense. This game, though, for Pittsburgh, I think is going to be a tough one. I'm taking Louisville to win, but I think Pittsburgh will stay in it. Again, if Nate Yarnell plays like he played last week for the Panthers, I think they're able to stay competitive with the Louisville team that is coming off a loss to the Stanford Cardinal. But you know what? Travel matters now, dude. It matters. Louisville had to go all the way from Kentucky to California, and that's what happens. You get upset playing in front of 500 people. It could be Pittsburgh to cover, but we are taking the Louisville Cardinals to win the football game. As we go on to our next one here, Arkansas at home against good old Louisiana Tech. La Tech gets destroyed this week in Fayetteville. 23 kind of feels like a bargain, I'm not going to lie. I actually kind of like this. I normally don't heavily like these big spreads, but I don't see a world where Arkansas doesn't go out here and win this game by more than 23 points. Don't be confused about La Tech. Their offense still sucks. They only beat Western Kentucky because WKU, 1, fumbled a punt, and missed two fourth downs in that game in big spots where if they kicked the field goal in both of those, they would have just won the game outright, 13-12. So don't get it twisted with Louisiana Tech. They still suck. They're not going bowling, even though if they beat Arkansas, they're probably going bowling because they just need to beat Kennesaw. Doesn't matter. Arkansas is going to make a bowl game. They're going to punch their ticket to the Hawaii Bowl. They're not going to go to the Hawaii Bowl, but they're going to punch their ticket to the Rob Gronkowski Los Angeles Bowl with a victory over Louisiana Tech. Arkansas, goes without saying, is the better football team. Sure, they've lost back-to-back weeks, but that's to Ole Miss and Texas. Talon Green, has been playing decent football this season. I think he has the potential next season. I'm not saying he's going to be, but he's got the potential next season to be one of the premier quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference. We'll see. But this is all about building for next year at this point for Arkansas. And it's huge because you got to win this football game and you got to take care of business here at Fayetteville to prepare for next season. Because you get that added time, you get that bonus practice time. If you win this football game, you go bowling. It's a huge step in the right direction for Arkansas, or continuous right step in the right direction for Arkansas. Right? I mean, they lost to OK State at the beginning of the year. That sucks. They're a huge win, though, is Tennessee, right? And look at Tennessee. This is why I don't think Tennessee's a playoff team. They lost to Arkansas, and then you lose to Georgia, sure. But the thing is, Georgia's lost twice this season too. So if Tennessee's really all that, they shouldn't lose to Georgia and Arkansas. When you got teams in the Big Ten, and I get it, the Big Ten's not as tough as the SEC, but then there's a question that if Indiana loses to Ohio State, they're not in the playoffs? I don't understand. I don't understand. I really don't understand. We're taking Arkansas to win this football game. We're taking the Razorbacks to cover. Again, don't get it twisted. Lot Tech's still not good, and they will not be good. I don't care. They're banned for a reason. Give me Arkansas to dismantle Lot Tech at home. Again, it's in Fayetteville. It's a night game. Actually, no, it's not a night game. But still, Arkansas should absolutely roll Louisiana Tech in this football game. And I like them in a spot next week against Mizzou. And speaking of the devil, here are Mizzou. I don't trust Missouri in anything. So if they're favorites, never pick Missouri. Just don't. They should not be expected to win any football game. Sure, Brady Cook's back. Brady Cook's not at 100%. Everyone knows it. When Brady Cook is at 100%, yes, he's one of the elite quarterbacks in the SEC. He's not at 100%. Luther Burden, they have still struggled to get the football to all season long, even though Luther Burden's going to be a round 2, round 1 pick in the NFL draft next season. For Mississippi State, I get it. They're the only winless team in the SEC. Obviously, they have the huge game next week, and it's the Egg Bowl, I think, right? I think it's the Egg Bowl. I think that's what they call it, against Ole Miss. Isn't that usually on Thanksgiving? Why is it on a Friday? I could have sworn the Egg Bowl's always on Thanksgiving. It's on Friday this year. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I could have sworn that game's usually on Thanksgiving. Anyways, Mississippi State's going to play Ole Miss next week on the road in Oxford. They're probably going to lose. This is their big shot to try to win one in the SEC this year. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities, though, that they beat Mizzou in this game. Guys, Mizzou's just not good. They always play down to their competition. They lost last week at South Carolina. Brady Cook's not at 100%. Theo Weiss has been good this season. Again, they need to find more ways to get Luther Burden in the football. We talked about that all season long. Will they? I don't know. They're already going bowling, so great for them. Obviously, their coach, last week or 2 weeks ago in their victory over Oklahoma said, it's a huge win for us. We needed that win, and that keeps us alive in the playoff picture. Yes, I said the playoff picture. Everyone's just looking at bro like, what? Mizzou's not good. I wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi State beats them. I really wouldn't. I'm going to pick Mizzou to win, but we're definitely, the pick here is Mississippi State to cover the spread. It's just, we'll see if Mississippi State's able to effectively throw the football. Because if Michael Van Buren has a game like he had last week against Tennessee, okay, they stand no chance, right? Mississippi State's been our sneaky team all season where we've taken them to cover pretty much against everybody, and they've done a pretty good job in doing so, except, again, last week against Tennessee. I think they rise to the occasion this week. We just need Van Buren to be able to get the ball to his leading receiver in Kevin Coleman Jr. I'd hope he would. I hope he'll be able to. Give me Mississippi State to go on the road, at home to, I'm not going to say beat Mizzou, but I think they cover the spread. Again, I would never trust Mizzou against anybody right now to cover any spread because that's just how Mizzou plays. I like Mississippi State a lot at home. Yeah, I think the Bulldogs are able to get it done and cover. Are they able to win? I think there's a chance. I'm not going to bet it. I'm not going to predict it, but I think they actually have an outside chance of winning this football game. Next up, we move on to the Sun Belt, and here are the aforementioned Ragin' Cajuns. Again, at one point the best team in the Sun Belt. Maybe they still are the best team in the Sun Belt, but you lose to South Alabama at home. It is a brutal loss for Louisiana, who, again, Were they making the college football playoffs? Probably not. But it is a game and a loss that completely axes their chances. Now they get Troy at home. Hear me out, guys. I'm taking Troy to cover the 11 points. I get it, Troy's a 3-7 football team, but this is the worst possible time Louisiana could be playing Troy. Hear me out. Louisiana's coming off a loss. Their offense didn't look like it usually looks like last week, and I get it. It's because of the absence of Ben Wooldridge. They are not the same team with Ben Wooldridge out and Chandler Fields, the senior quarterback, in. But hear me out. If Chandler Fields is playing this week, again, the Raging Cajuns are not the same explosive offense. On top of that, Troy, I think, is slightly, again, I think they're getting hot. I think they are. Matthew Caldwell is playing his best football all season. You're getting a building block for Matthew Caldwell towards the end of this year, and something that gives Troy hope, or even help Caldwell hope if he's looking to go to the portal this offseason. He's strung together back-to-back victories, and sure, is it all because of Caldwell? No, in their win over Coastal Carolina, you got 190 yards rushing in that game out of the junior running back out of Northport, Alabama. We're talking about Damian Taylor, and Taylor put up 92 last week in their victory over Georgia Southern. But back-to-back victories for Troy has to, again, be really inspiring for Troy this season. It does, because this was a team that was 1-7 at one point, winless in the Sun Belt. Now you've strung together back-to-back victories. You're likely going to pick up a win in your last game against Southern Miss at home. You've got a chance to be 4-8 this season. For how it started, you know, your losses to Nevada, Memphis, Iowa to start the year, losing to UL Monroe and only scoring 9 points, like, it has to be somewhat inspiring for Troy this season. I don't think they beat Louisiana, but I think they're catching them at the right time in terms of covering the spread, okay? We're taking Troy to win the not win. We're taking them to cover this football game. Again, Matthew Caldwell's getting hot at the right time. No Ben Wooldridge means it's going to be a lot more difficult for Louisiana to win and to cover. Actually, let me see. Is Ben Wooldridge playing or not? I'm going to check this real quick. Didn't play last week. Wooldridge is out at least 4 weeks, so he's likely not coming back until their bowl game. Obviously, the Fresno State transfer, he was a former Foothill College quarterback. That's brutal. He's out for a while. He's a senior, right? Yeah, Ben Wooldridge's a senior. I think he'll probably be back for their bowl game, but that's going to hurt Louisiana, and that's going to hurt them going forward beyond just this game against Troy, because there's a good chance Ben Wooldridge does not play the Sun Belt Championship game where they will likely see either James Madison or Marshall. That changes things too. It really does. Again, we'll likely see Wooldridge one more time this season in their bowl game, but for now, they're going to have to go the rest of the regular season and the Sun Belt Championship game without their starting quarterback. Give me Troy to cover the spread. I think Louisiana, though, will still be able to put together enough to straight up win the football game. Next up, we go on to Laramie, Wyoming, as you got the Wyoming Cowboys at home against the Boise State Broncos. Give me Boise State to absolutely decimate Wyoming. I don't think Wyoming's that great. Boise's getting 23 points for a reason in this one. Wyoming, kept it kind of close against Colorado State last week or 2 weeks ago. Colorado State only beat them by 14 points. Here's the thing about Colorado State, guys. They're a team that finds ways to win football games, but they're not blowing anybody out. So I don't really don't care that Colorado State only beat Wyoming by 14. Wyoming did beat New Mexico. I'm going to pretend I didn't remember that game. As a Lobos backer, as someone who is pumping up Devin Dampier and New Mexico all season long. I'm gonna pretend I forgot that. I just think Wyoming gets ran out the building in this one. Hear me out, guys. This is an Ashton Genty game where Boise really tries to solidify him as the Heisman. Now, we talk about Ashton Genty every week and, where he stands in the Heisman race. I don't think Travis Hunter's stock has ever been higher than it is right now. I think Travis Hunter's in a perfect position to win the Heisman Trophy. I think he is. You look at the Heisman odds, Travis Hunter's minus 330, Ashton Genty's plus 340, Cam Ward is in third at plus 1400. Now, I think that should be Curtis Rourke. We'll see. I think the final, Curtis Rourke should be able to go to New York. I don't think Curtis Rourke's winning the Heisman. But if Curtis Rourke beats Ohio State this week, which maybe we're going to pick, then he will be in that discussion. But you know what this is for Boise? And Shedeur Sanders said something about, Travis is the best player in college football. He's the Heisman, and we don't even try to get him the Heisman Trophy. Kind of alluding to the point that Boise does try to get Ashton Genty the Heisman. Well, again, that's just kind of how Boise plays. Ashton Genty does need the ball 30 times for them to win football games. Here's the thing. For Ashton Genty's resume, Boise knows they're winning this football game. They're not winning this football game. For Ashton Genty's resume, they need him to have a huge game this week. Or, Genty needs to have a big game this week. He's sitting at 1,893 rushing yards. I think they're going to try to get him 260. I know it's a lot, but it's very possible against a Wyoming team that doesn't tackle all that well, that has trouble with the run. This might be Ashton Genty's biggest game of the season. I'm serious. It's got all the making of being that. And instead, again, in games previous, the Utah State game, they've taken him out after the end of the first half. No, this is going to be a game where they play Ashton Genty the full 4 because they need to play some catch-up here in the Heisman race. And Boise, obviously, still a team that's trying to make the playoffs. I'm going to be honest with you, their Boise's probably going to win out. Their college football playoff bid depends on Army and Notre Dame this week. It just does. If Army wins, Boise's screwed. Because I don't think Boise's getting that large. For as bad as it is, their only loss being Oregon, the committee's going to put a 2-loss Tennessee team in over Boise State, with 1 loss to 3 points at Eugene to the number 1 team in the country who's undefeated. I'm serious. That will probably happen. Give me them to absolutely decimate Wyoming, though. Again, I would expect a huge night, and I mean a huge night, out of Ashton Genty. Expect him to dominate and expect Boise to feed him at will. Give me the Boise State Broncos to cover the 23 points and to win, obviously, on the road in Laramie, Wyoming. Next up, we move on to the Pac-2 championship game. Yeah, the conference championship games came early. Here's the Pac-2 championship game between Washington State and Oregon State. Who told you last week New Mexico was beating Washington State? That was me. That was me. I told you New Mexico was going to win that football game. I've been waiting all season long to finally cash in on what New Mexico has done all season long, and that's exactly what we did last week. I was so happy New Mexico won that football game. They fell behind down 21-7 at one point. They ended up winning at 38-35. Shout out the Lobos, man. They're going bowling. Devin Dampier will get to play in front of a national audience in bowl season because they are beating Hawaii next week. You can count on the Lobos. This is the Pac-2 title game. Oregon State might be one of the worst teams in college football right now. I don't know how this team beat Colorado State, and that's the argument. Oh yeah, UNLV should definitely be in that game over Colorado State. 100% I agree. 100%. But Oregon State's technically not a member of the Mountain West, and Colorado State hasn't lost in the conference yet, and they just didn't have to play UNLV, nor did they have to play Boise in the regular season. So, the Rams are going to kind of just sneak their way in probably. Again, they are a future game. They're the last game we're going to talk about in today's video. I think they have a chance of losing this week, but I don't know. We'll see if they can go into the Valley and beat Fresno. There's some value in that game too. We'll get to that later. But Oregon State's playing some of the worst football right now in all of college football. They are absolutely atrocious. They have not been competitive in a football game in a while. They lose to Nevada. They lose to UNLV. They get blown out by Cal. You know how bad it's got to be when you get blown out by the California Golden Bears. And they lose to San Jose State at home in Corvallis, and they lose 28-0 to Air Force. Guys, if you've been paying attention, Air Force has been horrible all season long. Yeah, they're getting better. They beat Fresno right now. They beat Oregon State. But Air Force started the year, 0-7? 1-7? Even in the Fresno win, right? Fresno still scored 28 points. Oregon State got blanked. They lost 28-0. It can't happen. Can't happen. Oregon State's not good. They rely on their run game, but here's the thing. If they can't get ahead early, which they haven't been able to do in weeks, then they're screwed. Because that's their entire team. They're now starting a true freshman quarterback in Jabari Johnson, the freshman out of Tacoma, Washington. They're trying stuff, but Washington State's the better football team. And I don't even think Washington State's all that great. Again, we were waiting to cash in on both New Mexico's stock and also Washington State just being better than people think they are. By the way, how the hell does the AP pull off Washington State at 25? That's absolutely ridiculous. And I love New Mexico, but how the hell is this team with this resume the 25th best team in the country? Portland State, Texas Tech, UW, San Jose State, lost to Boise, Fresno, Hawaii, San Diego State, Utah State. How the hell is that a ranked football team? It don't make sense. Absolutely ridiculous. The college football playoff rankings tomorrow better not have the Cougs in. Just ranked. And obviously, I don't give a damn. They're not going to be in the playoffs. But it's stupid. It's really dumb. But if you keep them ranked, Boise should still get in over a 2-loss Tennessee team. That's all I'm saying. If Boise doesn't get the automatic, obviously, because if Army somehow beats Notre Dame, we will cross that bridge when we get there later in the video. Give me Wazoo. They're not all that good, but they're way better than Oregon State. This is not me pumping up Washington State at all. It's actually the exact opposite. What I'm doing here is telling you how bad Oregon State is this season. Or recently, I guess. They're just bad. Next up to the Big 12, we go to the Battle of Texas here. Houston at home versus the Baylor Bears. We like Baylor on the road here to cover the 8 points. Houston kind of showed their true colors last week, fell right back down to earth against Arizona. It's something that we've been, I don't know about waiting for it to happen, but like I saw it coming. They win back-to-back games against Utah and Kansas State. Great, they look awesome. They go on the road, get absolutely destroyed on a Friday night. They're falling back down to earth. Now they're going to lose to Baylor. Baylor's going to beat this football team. Baylor's 6-4. They started the season very poorly, but they're on a huge winning streak now. They've won 4 straight games. Again, Sawyer Robertson's been really good for this football team. They've been running the ball really exceptionally well, too. I mean, this is a dangerous team. You want to talk about Kansas catching up right now, and Kansas playing excellent football and peaking. I mean, probably too late, but still Kansas playing good football at this point in the season. You know who's playing great football, too? It's the Baylor Bears. Baylor's playing really well right now. They are. Baylor is on a 4-game winning streak. They beat Texas Tech. They beat Oklahoma State. They beat TCU. They beat West Virginia. Sawyer Robertson's thrown for big yards in every single one of those games. He threw for 329 in their win over West Virginia. And their run game has been just phenomenal as well. Bryson Washington, the freshman, the sophomore, Dawson Pendergrass have both been very good recently for Baylor. They've had 100-yard rushers in every single game of this winning streak. Baylor's just caught fire right now, and Houston's not going to be the one that's going to put it out. Let's just be honest. It's not happening. Baylor should dominate this football game. Houston's going to revert back to the Houston we saw when they got blown out at Kansas before their miracle win at Texas Christian, which made me not want to pick Texas Christian ever again. I have moved on from that by now, but I'm taking Baylor to destroy Houston. Houston, 3 points last week against Arizona. Baylor should be able to shut them down on defense, even though Baylor doesn't play the best defense. Obviously, they get into a bunch of shootouts. This is a game though where Baylor can just completely run away with it. Truly. Their offense will get going, but I think their defense actually does stand a pretty good chance to completely limit anything Houston's got going. Give me Baylor -8 in this game. They will cover pretty easily in this one on the road at Houston. Next up, we stay in Texas. We go to San Marcos, Texas. You've got the Texas State Bobcats taking on the Georgia State Panthers. This one goes without saying. Texas State wins the football game, and they cover pretty easily as well. It's 20 points, sure. Game's at home, though, for Texas State, and Georgia State is one of the worst teams in the Sun Belt. I'm mad we didn't get the absolute tragedy that would have been Georgia State versus Southern Miss this season, the 2 winless teams in the Sun Belt. Again, Georgia State 2-8, Southern Miss 1-9. Of course, Southern Miss, the team that we proposed play Kent State, and the loser goes to the Missouri Valley Conference game. Obviously, setting up either North Dakota State or South Dakota State, whoever gets out of the FCS playoffs this season. I think it's a 2-man race, so those are the 2 teams I think it is. Again, I don't pay too close attention to FCS football because there's enough FBS teams for me to follow. I don't need a word after that. Follow, regardless, or anyways. English is difficult, man. Give me Texas State to dominate Georgia State. Georgia State got blown out by 31 points to James Madison. And yeah, it's the only game all season long where they haven't covered the spread. I don't understand how they beat Vandy early in the year. That's the one. I mean, I come on here every single week and tell you how bad Georgia State is, and I do mean it. They're bad. But then I keep remembering, oh yeah, they beat Vanderbilt by more points and they beat Chattanooga. Those are their 2 wins all year. Chattanooga, an FCS team who they beat by 3 points, and then Vandy, randomly. I don't get it. And that's why we thought, oh, okay, same old Vandy. Vandy still sucks. But no, Vanderbilt then beat Alabama and stayed competitive with Texas and went on the road and won a bunch of games this season. Good for Vandy. I'm really happy for the Commodores. But Texas State should dominate Georgia State. Shout out Jordan McLeod, a very underrated quarterback in college football. It's just because he plays at Texas State. He's a senior. I don't think he's got any more eligibility left. Obviously, former JMU quarterback. Used to start at USF. Never got the starting role at Arizona because he was by Jaden DeLora, if I'm not mistaken. Jordan McLeod's having a great senior year. Texas State, I think they're completely out of it in the Sun Belt West, right? No, they're not. Wait, no, they lost to Louisiana. Yeah, they're out. They can't win the Sun Belt anymore, but this is the team that's going to be a fun team in a bowl game. I'd like to see them again against, I'll just think of a random team I'd like to see them play in a bowl game. It's not going to happen. I'd love to see them in Western Kentucky. I think that'd be a shootout. I didn't just say that because TJ Finley's on Western Kentucky now. Obviously, he's not starting, but I'd love to see that matchup. 2 very high-scoring teams. I'd like to see that. I think last year they played Rice in a bowl game. I think I remember that. Yeah, they played Luke McCaffrey and Rice. I like to see Texas State and Western Kentucky in some random bowl game in the Frisco Bowl. Like, make it happen. Give me Texas State, though, to dominate Georgia State. This one goes without saying. They'll cover the 20 points as well. Next up, we go on to Utah. We go to Salt Lake City. We've got Utah taking on Iowa State. Give me Iowa State. I have been, a very loyal Utah guy this season, even though I've picked against them twice. But, BYU and Colorado, those two teams are just hard to pick against. I've been big on not big on Utah, but I've, supported Utah this season. I've wished nothing but the best for the Utah Utes all year long. This is a team that started 4-0, and then they have lost 6 games in a row. I've backed Utah with Isaac Wilson. I've stuck with Isaac Wilson all season long. Isaac Wilson has not won a game as a starting quarterback since September 21st. It was a huge 21st, Jesus. Against a huge game on the road at Stillwater. They won it. I was thinking, oh my goodness, Utah's going to be fine with Isaac Wilson. Who needs Cam Rising? And then, the rest is history. Now, it was a step in the right direction for the true freshman last week, Isaac Wilson. Even though they lost to Colorado and lost by 25 points, I thought it was a step in the right direction. I actually think it was. They burned Travis Hunter at one point in that game. On a deep ball. Isaac Wilson did throw 3 interceptions, and that's what's going to hold Isaac Wilson back. And to the same extent, that's kind of what held his brother. It kind of has held his brother back as well in the NFL, obviously, has been the interceptions, even though, I'm going to keep saying it. I think Zach Wilson never got a fair shake in the NFL. He never did. The guy should be starting currently for the New York Jets, but they decided to go to Aaron Rodgers, and Zach Wilson has had a better winning percentage as the starting quarterback of the Jets than Aaron Rodgers has, and Sam Darnold for that point too. Regardless, I think Isaac Wilson's going to be a lot better in his second season. I've mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. I hope Cam Rising doesn't come back. Go to the UFL or get a job. I don't know. Let Isaac Wilson be the starting quarterback of next season. Don't push him out like you pushed Bryson Barnes out last year. Don't do it. And I get it. Bryson Barnes has not been overly impressive for Utah State. He got benched to Utah State. But I think Isaac Wilson does have all the intangibles of being a great college football quarterback and a starting college football quarterback. I like to see him stick around and be the starting quarterback for 4 years at Utah. Iowa State should win this game, though. I get it. They lost back-to-back ball games. But credit to them. They beat Cincinnati last week. Didn't think it was going to happen, but they went out there and got the job done at home. This is a game where they just, they put back-to-back wins together. They're out of it, I think, in the Big 12 title game. No, they're not. Ooh. They did not play Arizona State. I don't think they're going to get in, because if Arizona State beats BYU, then it will definitely be Arizona State versus Colorado. So yeah, I think Iowa State is out. But still, they're kind of in it, but probably out. I think they beat up on Utah here, though. I get it. Utah's got a great defense, but I just do think Iowa State's able to score a little bit more. To that same point, though, hey, Utah's going to have some opportunities. I don't think the Iowa State defense is all that great. They give up 45 points to Kansas. They give up 35 to UCF, right? Teams have been able to score on this Iowa State defense. I just think Iowa State's the better team. They do have the better offense. So they should be able to score more than what Utah is going to be scoring, Utah's going to be scoring coming back at them. So give me Iowa State to win the football game and to cover the 7.5 points. As we go on to our next one here, Old Dominion and Marshall. This is actually a big game. It actually is. It's a huge game because, actually, I'll be honest, I keep forgetting Marshall's playing James Madison next week. It's actually not that big of a game, because if Marshall loses, they're still going to get a chance to go to the Sun Belt Championship if they can beat James Madison, because the winner of the Sun Belt East is going to come down to that game between Marshall and JMU next week. Oh no, Marshall lost to Georgia Southern. I forgot that happened. Never mind, they need to win this week, because they could still beat JMU next week, but Georgia Southern remains undefeated, remains a two-loss team in the Sun Belt, and then Georgia Southern would have the tiebreaker over Marshall. So no, Marshall has to beat Old Dominion this week. Perfect. That's fine, because we get them at plus money this week. We get Marshall at plus money in Norfolk. Give me that. Give me that all day long. Marshall is on a 4-game winning streak. Their only loss again this season in the Sun Belt is Georgia Southern by 1 point. On the road. They beat Georgia State after. They beat UL Monroe. They beat Southern Miss like everybody does. And they just came off a victory over Coastal Carolina. Old Dominion has lost back-to-back football games. I don't understand why Old Dominion is favored in this football game. It's because they're at home, sure. But they lost it. I get it. Okay, losing to JMU, not a bad loss, obviously. But losing to App State, I don't know. And sure, they did get the JMU game at home as well. I actually don't know why the Monarchs are getting such respect in this football game. Am I missing something here? Maybe I'm completely missing something. I could be. Is Braylon Braxton not playing? I mean, if they go to Stone Earl, they'll be fine. AJ Turner's healthy, right? I think AJ Turner's healthy. Yeah, no one's injured. It's just because Marshall's going on the road here. I don't care. Yeah, this is all Marshall. Braylon Braxton's been playing great. It's not like Stone Earl's was all that bad either. It's just Braylon Braxton's better, and they can open up the offense a lot more with Braylon Braxton because he's got better legs than Stone Earl. which sucks for Stone Earl because he's a senior and they're going to, that's kind of how he's going to end his collegiate career. But Braylon Braxton is obviously the guy of the future for Marshall. He's going to be back next season. I would anticipate, as long as he doesn't hit the portal, I think he should come back. This is a good team for Braylon, the good team of, considering, the skill of Braylon Braxton, this is a good position for him to be in at Marshall and be the starting quarterback going forward. I like Marshall to win this football game. They should cover the 2 points as well. You got, who's it? It's Colton Joseph in Old Dominion. They're not a bad football team. They'll give you some problems, of course. The move to Colton Joseph was made midway through the season, and it has saved their season. They need to win out to make a bowl game. I don't think they get it. Again, personally, I don't understand the line here. I feel like +2 for Marshall is highway robbery. So give me Marshall to win on the road. Unless I'm completely missing something, I think Marshall's going to win this football game. If I am missing something, let me know, but I really don't think I am. Give me Marshall all day long. Next up, we go to LSU and Vanderbilt. All day Vandy. I don't even need to see the line. Vanderbilt. They might win the game outright. Guys, LSU is so disappointing. They were disappointing at the beginning of the season where they couldn't beat USC, and they give you hope because they win, beat South Carolina. They beat UCLA. They beat Ole Miss. Crazy. They beat Ole Miss at home. They go on the road to Fayetteville and they win. But then they lose to A&M. They lose to Bama. And last week showed me LSU is completely they're out of it, team-wise. The locker room's gone. They couldn't go to the swamp and beat Florida. I get it. DJ Lagway came back and Florida's been playing better, but that's a game LSU's got to win. But that screams to me LSU's checked out. I don't mind the value on Vandy money line in this game. I get it. They lost to South Carolina last week. It is what it is. I don't mind the value we can get for Vanderbilt in this football game, especially the spread. +7.5 all day long. Give me Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores. 100% we love that. LSU is just a weird football team. They've lost 3 in a row. Now they're getting 7.5 points at home against a team that is, known this season for being a big spoiler and just winning games, where they're huge underdogs. Both these teams are 6-4. They're both 3-3 in the SEC. They're both going bowling, sure. But Vanderbilt right now, even with their loss by 21 points at home to South Carolina, still to me feels like the better football team. They got to go on the road in Baton Rouge, but you know what? That stadium's not going to be rocking Saturday night. Nobody cares anymore. They're out of the rankings. They've lost 3 games in a row. This team had playoff hopes at one point, and now they're completely out of it, and they're probably going to be in the Outback Bowl if they're lucky. They're probably going to go to the Camping World Bowl or whatever. Oh, that's the Citrus Bowl now, isn't it? No, it is. They're going to go to the... Give me a crap... I didn't think of a crappy bowl game. They're going to go to the... God, the Emerald Bowl's gone. The famous Idaho Potato Bowl. They're not going to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. But wouldn't that be funny if LSU was at the Idaho Potato Bowl? I just want to see an SEC team at the Idaho Potato Bowl. Idaho Potato Bowl at some point. That'd be hilarious. I doubt that's ever happened before. I'm not even going to search up this video long enough. Give me Vandy. Vandy on the road here. I don't mind them winning. I definitely like them to cover. Again, it's a scrappy Vanderbilt team. We like taking them every week. Again, I've liked Vandy every week since they beat Alabama, okay? They proved me wrong, and I take them every week. I don't care. Even with the loss of the Gamecocks, it's fine. Give me Vanderbilt to go on the road and to cover the 7.5 points against Louisiana State, and there's a definite possibility they win the game outright as well. Next up, we go on to Kansas State versus Cincinnati. Give me the Bearcats. I get it. The Bearcats are coming off back-to-back losses to Colorado, West Virginia, and Iowa State. This was a Bearcats team at one point in time this season that was 5-2, looking great, looking in it in the Big 12 championship picture, and now they've dropped 3 in a row and they're fighting to become bowl eligible. Now, I didn't know Brandon Sorbsy had that running game in him last week. I didn't know he had that. 161 yards on the ground for Brendan Sorbsy yesterday is insane, considering his high on the season's 48 yards. Now, of course, Sorbsy only had 66 passing yards in that loss to Iowa State, but this is another spot, and this is what the Big 12 has given us all season long, I feel like. Arizona State last week, Colorado against TCU, actually Colorado against Arizona, a lot of games Colorado's played. We've gotten really good value out of underdogs this year in the Big 12. Hell, Cincinnati beating Arizona State in their last victory. We've gotten really great value out of underdogs this year in the Big 12. I feel like out of every conference so far, or this year in college football, I feel like I get the Big 12 right the most. And I get it. I got BYU Kansas wrong last week, but it's fine. I feel like this is the easiest, not easiest, but I feel like this is the conference I have the best read on. Cincinnati's too good to not beat they're too good to get blown out by Kansas State. Guys, we're talking about how Cincy's been bad. K-State's lost back-to-back games to Houston and to Arizona State, which we saw that all game long. I mean, that was an easy pick for us. Arizona State was up 21-0 at that point, again, early in the game. K-State just made it close towards the end. K-State is not 9 points better than Cincinnati. They're just not. Is Cincinnati going to win the football game? I don't know. But K-State's not that much better than Cincinnati. Sure, DJ Giddens will probably have a day. He has a day every single game. Other than that, I've never been sold on Avery Johnson. I'm still not. I think Cincinnati's the better football team. I don't mind them to straight up win the football game. If you're looking for value, give me Cincy money line. But I do like them to cover the plus 9.5 points as well. They are not 8.5. They are not 9 points worse than this K-State team that's lost back-to-back games. I get it. Cincy's lost back-to-back games too. But K-State's not that much better than Cincinnati. I'll make the case they're not better than the Bearcats at all. Give me Cincinnati to cover the 8.5 points. Next up, we go to the ACC. Why is there an ACC game so late? At 8 p.m., they're starting Duke versus VTech. Whose bright idea was this? There's no game on the ACC network before. Their only other game is Stanford Cal at 12:30. This game could easily gone at 4. I don't know why they're playing at 8 o'clock. Duke versus Virginia Tech. I don't understand this. And I also don't understand the line, too. VTech -3? What? Give me Duke. Yeah, Duke at home. I get it. They've, haven't looked great, but they beat NC State last week. And don't look now, but Duke's 7-3. Duke's 7-3. They're probably going to be 9-3 this year, which is crazy. Guys, Duke's going to have a bowl game. Let's say they play. I need to keep, pulling out bowl games out my ass here. Let's say Duke plays in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. There we go. And if they win the Duke's Mayo Bowl or the Pop-Tart Bowl, they'll become 10-3 this season. I think they're beating VTech at home, and definitely I think they will go to Wake Forest and win that football game. Duke's come off a victory over NC State. I get it, it's NC State, but still, Duke's not a bad football team, man. Malik Murphy's been all right this season. He really has. He's been one of the more underrated quarterbacks in college football this season. He's going to be a junior next year. If he hits the portal, I think he's going to be someone that a lot of teams are going to go after. If not, I really like him back in this Duke system next season. But again, knowing college football and knowing underclassmen, like everyone hits the portal, you just got to, you got to weigh your options. But it's fine. Duke's a 7-3 football team this season. I know the Florida State game wasn't impressive. That was the lowest I ever was on Duke. But SMU game, they're very close. They should have had SMU in that game. They lost. The Miami game, they were close in the first half until Miami started to pull away at the end of the third quarter. And the NC State game, they win by 10 points on the road in Raleigh. They're not that bad. The Blue Devils are not that bad. Virginia Tech, again, not a team that's not that bad either, but they're so inconsistent, man. They'll have games where they look great. The Boston College game, the Georgia Tech games. But then they'll have games like they had last week against Clemson, completely shut down with Kyron Jones in the offense. Their leading rusher had 28 yards. They could not get anything going in that game. I think Duke, again, they play good defense at points. Sure, some of the offenses they play at times aren't that very good, in all fairness. But I do think Duke is able to play stifling defense in this football game. They're at home. It's in Durham. I like Duke a lot in this spot. +3, give me the home dogs. I don't think Virginia Tech's that much better than Duke. I like Malik Murphy and the Blue Devils to pull this one out at home as we go into our final game of this slate before we do the features. Air Force on the road at Nevada. We like Air Force. Air Force is playing their best football all season long. We talked about it a little bit earlier when we were talking about Oregon State. Air Force is coming off back-to-back victories over Fresno State and Oregon State. Again, I did not see the Fresno State victory coming at all. And then a huge victory where they absolutely shut down and shut out the Oregon State Beavers 28-0. Nevada has not won a football game since the middle of the season where they beat, guess who? Oregon State. They are winless in the Mountain West, but they have a victory over the Pac-2 team in Oregon State. They play UNLV next week. They are going to get slaughtered. They did have some competitive games midway through the year. San Jose State game sticks out. The Fresno State game sticks out, sure. And yeah, they are better with, Chuba Purdy not playing and with Brendan Lewis, I believe. It's Brendan Lewis, right? Yeah, with Brendan Lewis starting instead. But, Brendan Lewis isn't their savior. Like, he's not going to save them that much. They don't really run the ball that well, with the exception of Brendan Lewis. They were competitive in the Boise game. I'll give them that. But Boise sometimes just lets teams hang around, which that is what, sucks with them. And, I wouldn't rely on them, by the way, blowing out Wyoming. I just think it's kind of the game where it feels like they will, at least the spot for Ashton Genty. I think Air Force wins this football game. The Falcons are playing their best football of the year. I get it. They are 3-7, but right now this has been the best they've played all year long. You got to give credit to their quarterback, Quentin Hayes, who's been playing better. And then Dylan Carlson, not Carlson, that's a baseball player, has been playing really well as well, at least recently. Their last win over Oregon State, Carson had 97 yards, and the win over Fresno State, Carson had 120 yards rushing. So I think Air Force is a good spot for them here on the road. I think you get nice plus money in this one. If you want to take the money line, take it. I like the plus 3.5 even more, because even if Nevada wins, like, what are the odds Nevada wins a football game by more than a field goal? They're not that impressive. They don't blow anybody out, obviously. And I think, again, Air Force will remain competitive in this football game. Will they win it? That's a whole other thing. I think there's a very good chance they will. I'm going to take Air Force to win the game, so we are taking Air Force money line. But the even better play, I think, is plus 3.5 for the Falcons here. We're going to take Air Force to cover just because, again, Nevada can't blow anybody out. They don't have a run game. They are able to get away from teams. Brendan Lewis does everything for this offense. Other than Brendan Lewis, there's really just not much going on. That's why they were so bad that one game with Chuba Purdy when they went to Hawaii, because, again, their entire offense is built around Brendan Lewis. Give me Air Force all day long as we go on to our feature games. Here we go. Indiana, Ohio State. We are taking the Indiana Hoosiers to go on the road to Columbus and to beat the Buckeyes. Yes, sir. We're taking Indiana. Now, if you forgot, or if you haven't been watching every single week here on the channel, which you should, but it's fine if you haven't, let's go back and let's look at all the times I have said Indiana is going to be good this season. Well, let's look at this. Hold on. Let's see. Here we go. Boom. Oh, this is the schedule. Here we go. Week number 3. Okay? Video posted over 2 months ago. There I am. The lighting makes me look a lot different. Let's just watch, guys. Let's just watch, okay? Indiana, week 3. They were 2-0 at the time. They're playing the UCLA Bruins. Let's see what happens. Let's see what I say. Roll it. I'm kind of sold on the Hoosiers right now. I am. 77 points against West Illinois. I understand it's West Illinois, but it's hard to put up 77 points against anybody. I think there is a serious chance that Indiana, again, this is a big reach here, but I'm probably going to pick them in every game until they get to this point. There's a chance Indiana is undefeated. Seriously, they are undefeated going into week 11 against Ohio State. And that is a game where the winner goes to the Big Ten championship game. That's again, I might be a little too high on Indiana right now, and I completely understand that. I might be completely. Nope, I wasn't. So there you go. There's that one. But no, wait, there's more. Let's watch this one. Indiana versus. Oh God, I did not mean to do that. Here we go. There's more. Indiana week 8 against Nebraska. Let's just see what I have to say. Hold on. Let's just see. Let's see. They've covered pretty much every single game this season. I think they have, and they're going to continue to cover. They may be the best offense in college football. Right now, guys, I think they go to Ohio State and win. I'm just saying. It's on October 15th. They're probably not favored to win that game, but I think IU can go into Columbus and win. That's all I'm saying. IU can go into Columbus, play Ohio State, and potentially knock Ohio State out of the playoffs. Go look at ESPN's playoff predictor. Indiana's at a 48% chance to make the playoffs. You know where that is now? Hold on, let's look at it together, guys. Let's look at it together where... Oh, God, that's not what I meant to do. Let's look at it together where Indiana now is currently on their playoff predictor. Let's just take a quick look. Yeah, that's right, 97%. Higher chance than Ohio State. Now, it's a whole other conversation that we can have about, if Indiana doesn't win this game, say Ohio State wins, obviously Indiana's going to beat the hell out of Purdue. They won't make the game then. They won't make the Big Ten championship game. Where do they end up? ESPN still gives them a 97% chance to make the playoffs, even if they lose to Ohio State. I don't know if I feel that confident in that, but regardless, you know what is going to happen. Change this. Boom. They will win the conference championship game. Indiana is going to be the number 1 seed, and they're going to win the entire thing as they have... What? All right, this is ridiculous. Ohio State. Anyways, one more clip. Let's listen. They just are, guys. Washington's coming off a bye week. I get it. They just got blown up by Iowa. Iowa put up 40 points to them. What the hell is Indiana gonna do? Indiana plays dominant offense. Curtis Rourke again is in the Heisman race. He should be. He's been playing that well this season. Indiana's 7-0 for the first time in program history. They're going to be 8-0. And guys, Indiana is winning the national championship this year. I don't want to hear it. Indiana's winning the entire thing. Again, I don't know what the odds on Indiana to win the entire thing is right now, but you should bet it. Just saying. Week 9, I said that. Week 9. And you know what, again, the original time I said they're going to go to the national championship game was... why is the date not here? September 10th. September 10th. And now, this is what it all comes down to. I have been hyping this game up all season long, and the Indiana Hoosiers are beating Ohio State this week. Indiana is going on the road to Columbus, and they are going to solidify themselves as the best team in college football this season. Indiana is going to the playoffs ranked number 1. They are beating Ohio State, and they are beating the crap out of the Oregon Ducks, which is an easier game. They are beating Oregon in Lucas Oil in Indianapolis to win the Big Ten, and then they will win the national championship. They are 13.5-point dogs. That is highway robbery. All day long. What do we got on the money line? Plus 380? Guys, we're going to become rich this weekend. All right? We're becoming rich this weekend, so then we can pay for our trip to go to Indiana to watch them in the Big Ten championship game. Actually, I don't know if my class schedule is going to permit that. But regardless, we are all in on the Hoosiers. We have been all in all season long. Ohio State has not been impressive. I don't give a damn. The Buckeyes have not been impressive recently. They beat Nebraska by 4 points. They barely get out of it at home. They beat Penn State by 7. Okay, that's not bad, but whatever. They beat Purdue. Who gives a damn? They beat Northwestern. I don't care. They've lost one game all season long by 1 point. I get it. Will Howard's great. I get it. Judkins has just been, just because they have so many weapons on offense. I'll give them that. But the Hoosiers have the best offense in college football. Curtis Rourke, this is your time to rise to the occasion, my friend. Curtis Rourke is going to put himself in the Heisman conversation with a victory at Ohio State. And can you deny the guy, the Heisman? If Curtis Rourke takes Indiana to a national championship or to the Big Ten championship game and wins the Big Ten, how can you deny that guy the Heisman Trophy? I understand Travis Hunter's having an all-time season. Travis Hunter is the Shohei Ohtani of college football. It has been nothing like Travis Hunter. But you know what else there hasn't been nothing like? Indiana winning the Big Ten in football. This isn't basketball. Nope. No, this isn't basketball. Victor Oladipo's not on the court. This is football. Indiana's beating Ohio State this weekend. It is the biggest game in Indiana Hoosiers football history. They are going on the road to Columbus, Ohio, and they are beating the Buckeyes. And they are going to whoop Ohio State. Give me Indiana by 10 points on the road. Okay, actually, I don't know if I should say that. Let me put the gimmick aside here. This game's gonna be really close. Indiana's gonna win it by like 3. I'm just saying that to hype myself up a little bit. I'm just saying. But I do really love Indiana. I do. I love this team this season. Curtis Rourke, Juice Ellison, obviously. You've got Tyson Lawson as well, who can run the football. Saren, Amar Cooper, Miles Price. This offense is really good. Trust me, this offense is really good. They're going to give Ohio State problems. This is the toughest game Ohio State has played all year long. I was going to talk about, what happens if Indiana loses? Are they still in the playoffs? No, we're not going to talk about it. If that happens, we'll cross that bridge next week. But we're all in. The Hoosiers win. They go to the Big Ten championship game. We are all in on Indiana. They beat Ohio State, and then they get ranked number 1 the following Tuesday. Give me the Hoosiers to go on the road to Columbus and beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. All right. So, after I got worked up about that game, stuff means something to me, man. We've got Ole Miss taking on Florida. Not a bad football game. It's a crucial game for Ole Miss, obviously, right? You got to have this one going on the road. You got to win this game and make the postseason. I think they get it done. I think, again, Florida is playing their best football right now, obviously. Again, they were competitive with Georgia until they weren't, obviously, but they were down to the third-string quarterback. Texas, again, Warner was playing, who was their third-string QB. DJ Lagway comes back last week, and they win the football game against LSU. Now DJ Lagway gets Ole Miss, right? I think Ole Miss does win the football game. Again, Ole Miss, guys, I said at the very beginning of the season, and I did kind of cool off on my take that Ole Miss was the best offense in college football, partially because the Indiana Hoosiers decided to show up, which, that's fine. I still think Indiana's got a better offense than Ole Miss, personally. But I said at the beginning of the season that Ole Miss had the best offense in college football. That was partially because, they're beating up on Wake Forest, they're beating up on Georgia State, they beat Furman 76-0, and Jackson Dart was putting up crazy numbers, and he still is putting up crazy numbers. Hell, Jackson Dart threw for 515 yards in that win on the road at Fayetteville against Arkansas. That's a big-time performance out of Jackson Dart. And again, I said it earlier in the video, I'm going to say it again, Jackson Dart should and probably will be on the cover of the video game next year. He will be the Heisman winner next year and might be the number 1 pick next year as well. That's how good Jackson Dart is. Again, huge victory over Georgia. Jackson Dart didn't just kill him with his legs, also on the ground as well. Jackson Dart scrambled for a key 50 yards, and he has led Ole Miss in rushing back-to-back games with 47 in that victory over Arkansas and 50 in the win over Georgia. Jackson Dart's legit, man. He is a legit great football player. He's the best quarterback in the SEC, and he's a top 5 quarterback in all of college football. He just is. Again, I think this is a rough time for Ole Miss to get Florida, but here's the thing. If Ole Miss is the team that we think they are and the team that they have to be to be in the postseason, they gotta win this game. There's no doubt. They have no other choice. So here's my thing with Ole Miss. Go out and get a win, pick up a statement victory over Florida. Covering the 10.5 again, a statement win is much needed for the Ole Miss Rebels tonight or on Saturday. It's a much needed win, and I think they get it. They go to the Swamp and show everyone that they are the team that they can be. They have struggled against on the road earlier this year at Baton Rouge. Now you got to go on the road to Florida. I think they get it done. It's a big-time football game, but give me Ole Miss. Give me the Ole Miss Rebels to go on the road and beat Florida and to cover the 10.5 points as well. Next up, we go to Minneapolis, or is it St. Paul? Minneapolis, St. Paul. I'm not completely sure where Minnesota plays. One of the Twin Cities. You've got Minnesota hosting Penn State. It's Minneapolis. We're taking Penn State to win this game, but we are taking Minnesota to cover. Guys, Minnesota's playing good football right now. I know they just did lose to Rutgers. I get it, but Max Brosmer has arrived. Brosmer has arrived under this Minnesota team. Again, in his senior season, the New Hampshire transfer has been balling all season long for Minnesota, but really has found his stride again midway through the season. The game he found it really was the Michigan loss at the Big House. What happened after? Well, Minnesota went on to win 4 straight games for USC, UCLA, Maryland, and against Illinois. They lost to Rutgers last week, which does suck, but now they get the Penn State Nittany Lions. All right, Penn State, 9-1 in the season, coming off that win over Purdue. They're a good football team. They're good. I'm not sold on Penn State doing anything in the postseason, though, guys. I'm not. I think they lose to a lot of the SEC teams that are going to be in the field. I think they lose to Indiana. I think, again, Penn State, they're going to get in because they're Penn State. But hear me out. If their name is not Penn State, if this was Indiana, okay, and this is going to be, I hope Indiana doesn't lose to Ohio State next week. But if they do, this will be a discussion, okay? Indiana will be on the bubble with 1 loss to Ohio State on the road. Penn State played Ohio State at home. They lost. Who is their key victory? Illinois? West Virginia? USC by 3 points? They don't have a big win. Sure, you can make the case about that with Indiana, sure. But the thing about Indiana is, though, they have blown teams out, and their games haven't been close. Penn State played UCLA into a 2-score game. Illinois to a 2-score game. Bowling Green in a 1-score game. USC to overtime. I'm just saying. I think Minnesota plays them really tough as well. This is a good Minnesota team. Max Brosmer, again, is playing his best football all season long. They got to get Darius Taylor going. They couldn't get their sophomore running back going at New Jersey, or at Rutgers, obviously, and he had 28 yards rushing. They need to get him going. It's going to be tough against this Penn State defense, but I do think Minnesota is able to just stay in this football game. I think they lose it by less than 12.5 points, but we are taking the Nittany Lions to go on the road and win. It's a game they got to have, but I do think Minnesota keeps it a competitive basketball game, competitive football game. I've been doing too many college basketball predictions, but that does, tell me to remind you to go check out our best bets of the college basketball season every single day here on the channel. All right, let's go on to our next one. We go to Tempe, Arizona. We've got the Arizona State, I want to make a TED joke, the Sun Devils taking on the BYU Cougars. Guys, what have I been saying all season long? Tempe is where ranked teams go to die. It happens every single season. And if BYU beat Kansas last week, I would be taking BYU in this football game. But now I'm not taking them. We're taking Arizona State to win at home. It feels like too good of a spot here for the Sun Devils. They are favorites. They are getting 3 points. If you do like Boise, you can get plus money on them. But Arizona State is peaking at the right time, and they get this game at home as well. Scadaboo's great. He's a great running back. He's got 1,074 yards in the season, and he didn't play a game as well. So Scadaboo has been balling all year long. Sam Levitt has done everything right at the quarterback position as well. Jordan Tyson has been a great receiver for the Arizona State Sun Devils as well. The problem for BYU is, again, you go on the road, you get an afternoon game against Arizona State, but again, just going to Tempe is such a difficult place to play. They have not lost at home all season long. I think, personally, the Big 12 championship game is going to be BYU versus Arizona State. That's what I think it's going to be. Arizona State versus Colorado, excuse me. I think BYU loses this football game. And I've been high on the Cougars all year long. I was I thought they were a little overrated to start the year, but as I started watching them, all right, I fully bought into Jake Retzlaff, and they're just simply put, BYU's ability just to win close football games. It hasn't really gone their way recently, obviously, with the Kansas game, but hell, the Utah game, the Oklahoma State game, the Baylor game, they found ways to win close games. SMU too, that's like key victory for Brigham Young in terms of at large, which who knows, I don't think they can get it anymore, but that's still a key victory that they beat SMU, and if SMU keeps winning, again, that's only going to improve BYU's resume. The problem for BYU is I think Arizona State beats them. I'm taking Scadaboo in Arizona State. I am. I just think they're the better football team. I think they should be able to outscore BYU in this game. BYU's offense has not looked that bad ever this season as last week against Kansas. Because we thought the way Kansas beats them is in a shootout. Daniels in that offense gets going, and they just outscore BYU, and BYU's not able to keep up. It wasn't anything like that. It was a low-scoring game that BYU had opportunities. Retzlaff throws the interception in the end zone at the end of the first half, really cost him points. It's brutal. Because BYU was putting together a real Cinderella season. They were ranked number 6. Now they're going to fall to about, I'd say, like 15. It's a rough game for them, man. It's a really rough game for BYU going on the road to take on Arizona State. I'm taking the Arizona State Sun Devils to win this one at home against the BYU Cougars. Again, the problem last week was not the defense, because we thought, oh, maybe they just get, ran out of town because of the way Kansas' offense is able to produce, because, Kansas has not turned the ball over anymore. Well, no, Kansas was still turning the ball over, just BYU couldn't capitalize on literally anything in that game. We're taking Arizona State to win at home here. They will beat the BYU Cougars, and they will cover the 3 points as well. Next up, we go to the other huge Big 12 matchup between Colorado and Kansas. You just saw what Kansas did to Brigham Young. Now at Arrowhead Stadium, you get Kansas and Colorado. If Rado wins, they are definitely in the Big 12 championship game. They're not losing to Oklahoma State. I refuse to believe they lose to Oklahoma State. It's just not happening. Kansas, again, is playing their best football at the right time. Now, again, I just said it so we can preface it again. Their offense didn't win them that game against BYU. Sure, they went to Provo and won, a huge victory for them, but their offense wasn't the reason why they won that game. It was because of their work their defense was able to do. I mean, not like Jalen Daniels had a huge game. Jalen Daniels had, 150 yards, 160 yards? I wouldn't expect that to happen back-to-back weeks. Here's my thing. We're going to get a shootout for the ages here, guys. But here's the thing. I do think Colorado's defense is very on par with Kansas's. I think they're going to be fine in this game. And obviously, I think Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Omarion Miller, and Draylon Miller, and this Colorado offense is just better. I think they are. Oh, and Omarion Miller too, but Draylon Miller has been a lot better recently. I don't think. Is Omarion hurt? I think, right? He hasn't played since the K-State game, I think. I'm not mistaken. Regardless, I love what Colorado does, man. I picked Colorado every single game this season. I've been high on Colorado, and again, this is like one of these teams like Indiana. Here we go. We finally get to cash in on it. It's a huge game. We've got massive games this weekend. I mean, again, you've got Indiana, Ohio State, then you get Colorado, Kansas. Again, Travis Hunter is likely the Heisman this year. If I had to vote on it, I'd probably vote for Travis Hunter, even though I would vote for Curtis Rourke if Indiana goes to Ohio State and wins. I will definitely be voting. I don't have votes, what am I saying? But I will be saying that Curtis Rourke's the Heisman. Right now, though, before Ohio State, Indiana, Travis Hunter's the Heisman. I like Ashton Genty a lot, but it's definitely Travis Hunter. He's having a crazy season. And the guy plays both ways, obviously. They should beat Kansas. They really should. Like, again, we've seen Colorado against these teams in the Big 12 that are supposed to beat them, and really good teams who are playing really well going into the game. Baylor, UCF, Arizona, Cincy. We've seen even Texas Tech was a big one too. They went on the road and beat up on Texas Tech. They got to go on the road to Kansas. They should be fine. Again, it's at Arrowhead. I think that's even better for Colorado. They go to this. I know, again, I don't think Lawrence, Kansas is that far from Kansas City, Missouri. I can look it up right now. Lawrence, Kansas. It's 40 minutes. Okay, that's literally right there. Regardless, it's fine. It's a neutral site game, and I think it's a Kansas home game, but still, I think Colorado is going to be fine in this football game. Again, when you have the best quarterback in college football, when you have one of the best players in college football, you're going to be fine. Colorado's winning this football game over Kansas. I've seen it. I've seen it too many times. Oh, here comes Colorado's match. The Nebraska game still doesn't make sense. The Kansas State game, they slipped on a banana peel and lost. They couldn't run the football in that game. They are going to be fine in this game over the Jayhawks. They are going to beat the Kansas Jayhawks. Give me the Colorado Buffaloes all night long to go on the road and stop this little run Kansas is going on. It ends now, okay? If K-State was still able to beat Kansas, Colorado most definitely will beat Kansas, okay? Again, it is good, too, if you're back in Colorado, that Jalen Daniels did not have an impressive game in his last one. Give me Colorado to win the football game. They're on the road as favorites. They will cover the 3 points as well. Next up, we go to another absolutely massive game. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Army Black Knights from the Bronx in Yankee Stadium. I am so tempted to pick Army in this football game. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm so tempted. Like I was very tempted to take Navy over Notre Dame. But we are going with the Fighting Irish to win the football game. We are taking Army to cover the spread. It's just the way Army's played recently, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Their defense has been great. But what made this Army team so special, I thought, was their ability to throw the football. They haven't really thrown the football that much recently. That's the problem. Their win over Air Force, they had 48 passing yards, and Bryson Daly in their win over North Texas had 15 passing yards. Now, Bryson Daly had 153 yards on the ground. That's great. But that's what made this Army team different. They're still really good. This is one of the best Army teams I've seen in a while. Again, they are making the playoffs if they win this football game, as long as they win the American Championship and they beat UTSA as well. The problem, though, is Notre Dame's playing their best football at the right time. Again, I will never be confident picking a Notre Dame game, and I'll never be confident laying them on the spread because of the NIU loss. If they didn't lose to Northern Illinois, Notre Dame would be like number 6 right now. They are number 6. Oh, never mind. They'd be even higher. They'd probably be number 2. Probably. The resume's all right. The A&M game really sticks out. But other than that, like, I don't know. This resume's not amazing on Notre Dame. They're not playing conference football. Like, I don't know. They're winning games. I got to give them credit. But I don't know. It's Notre Dame. I'm not that impressed still. I'm going to pick them to win. Their defense is really good. They should be able to stop Army again. Army's offense has not been the same explosive Army offense that was dropping 40 points literally every single game early in the season. That's the difference. Army was doing that every single week to start the year. Now, a 20-point, 23 victory over Air Force, a 14-3 win over North Texas. Sure, they were still winning football games, but it's not the same dominance that we saw at the Black Knights earlier in the season. That's why I'm taking Notre Dame to win the football game. Riley Leonard, again, does not do anything all that impressive, but it's the run game. Like guys like Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price as well can get it done. And I think the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, again, it is closer to Army than it is Notre Dame. It's in the Bronx. It's at Yankee Stadium. But I want to pick Army so bad, but I do unfortunately like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to win this game. And they will get it done, getting their signature win going into the postseason. Notre Dame's going to be probably the number 6 or 5 seed come the postseason, giving them to beat Army in New York. Next up, we go on to the SEC, Alabama versus Oklahoma. Not going to spend too much time on this one. We just needed to fill out our 10 feature games today. So here is Alabama and Oklahoma. We're taking Alabama. That goes without saying. Honestly, this one probably shouldn't even be here. Oklahoma's 5-5. They need to win a game to make a bowl game. They're not going to... Actually, they might... No, they're not beating LSU. For as bad as LSU's been recently, they're not going to go to Louisiana and win. Bama, again, this is what Bama needed. They're playing their best football at the right time. Jalen Milroe is an athlete, and he's a monster. What did we take away from their 52-7 victory over Mercer last week? Absolutely nothing, because it's Mercer. Who gives a damn? But they blow out LSU the week before. They blow out Missouri. Again, yes, they did lose to Tennessee. And yes, they almost lost to South Carolina. And they did lose to Vandy. But after that Tennessee loss, something has clicked. Alabama's playing their best football. The Mizzou win 34-0. LSU 42-13. Who cares about Mercer? But Mercer actually was playing good FCS football this year. But obviously it's Alabama. Who cares, right? Oklahoma is still playing bad football, though. That's the problem. I mean, Texas lost. South Carolina lost. Ole Miss lost. Losing to Mizzou, who's absolutely atrocious. Alabama all day long. Guys, 14's a bargain. If Alabama was able to go to Baton Rouge and beat Louisiana State by, 29 points, what the hell do you think they're going to do to Oklahoma, okay? Bama goes into Oklahoma, and they absolutely beat the crap out of the Sooners. This game's not competitive. Alabama wins, and they cover the 14 points as well. We go on to our next one here. We go to UCLA versus USC. And I may have skipped... Oh, God, did I skip a game? I did skip a game. Okay. Real quick, there is no official graphic for it, guys. I apologize for not making an official graphic. At least, I don't think I made one. Did I not? Did I not make an official? Oh, God, I didn't make a graphic for this game. A&M Auburn, I did not make a graphic for. I did not, I don't think. I did not. Okay. Excuse that. Here, we'll go to the handy, we'll go to this instead for this game, because this is my fault for not making a graphic for this game. A&M and Auburn. It's in Auburn, Alabama. I still like Texas A&M to win this football game. You look at the odds right now, -2.5 for A&M. I feel like that's a really great value bet here. I really think it is. I think it's great value. I get it, A&M lost to South Carolina, but I'm completely fine with this A&M team going to Auburn, who has struggled. Don't be fooled by Peyton Thorne's 5-touchdown game over UL Monroe. Don't be fooled by that. A&M's still winning this football game, and trust me, I picked against A&M a lot this season. And again, they lost to South Carolina, but Marcel Reed and the guys should be fine. Marcel Reed, again, is upper half, I would say, in the SEC in quarterbacks. Again, expect A&M to dominate this football game. I love the 2.5-point value in this game. And sure, I did love I did love LSU to go on the road and cover their 2.5 points last week against Florida. I completely understand that. But this game feels pretty decent for Texas A&M. It really does. It feels good for them to go on the road here and win this football game. 2.5 points simply just does not feel like enough points. I think A&M's offense is too good. Again, don't get excited about this 48-14 victory over UL Monroe. UL Monroe can't win football games. Don't forget the week before, again, Auburn loses 17-7 to Vandy. They won this huge losing streak here. Peyton Thorne is just not that good. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC, which you can credit to him. He's an SEC quarterback, but overall, he's not one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. I like A&M all day long to cover the 2.5 points and win on the road in Auburn. Next up, we go back to, there it is, UCLA versus USC. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on these last two games because they aren't huge football games, but these are games with some meaning, obviously. We like USC to beat UCLA here. Okay, two Southern California teams, obviously. It's in the Rose Bowl. I think USC is the better football team. I think they are. UCLA obviously is coming off of their win in their last game. They lost to UW. Yeah, no, actually, that's why I'm picking USC. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, UCLA lost to University of Washington, okay? And UW's been very disappointing this season, but UW just ran right through UCLA in that game. And that was interesting again because Washington went to their backup quarterback. Will Rogers went out at one point, so it was Demond Williams Jr. who was balling in that game. Took off, made some nice scrambles, was 7 for 8 throwing the football. It wasn't a bad adjustment for UW, stepping away from Will Rogers. I'm just saying, going to their freshman. I don't know if Williams is going to play against Oregon. Who knows? I don't know if he's going to play the bowl game, but I don't think it was the worst move. UCLA looked outmatched in that game, and I think they are outmatched in this USC game. Again, Miller Moss gets benched in favor of Jaden Maivia. I never understood why Maivia came to USC in the first place from UNLV. It made absolutely no sense. He would be the starter at UNLV. Why are you going to USC? But hey, it worked out for him because apparently, the way it's looking right now, SC's going to go at Jaden Maivia over Miller Moss, and they will likely lose Miller Moss in the transfer portal. Again, Miller Moss will be the most sought-after quarterback in the portal. I would definitely expect that to be the case. Teams are going to give up a lot of money to bring Miller Moss to their campus. Jaden Maivia, I don't think he's as good as Miller Moss, but I think he's got potential. I think he's pretty decent, and I still think USC would win this game regardless of who plays quarterback. Woody Marks is still in the backfield, and Jaden Maivia and the guys should be able to beat this UCLA team. Again, Ethan Garbers has turned into a pretty good runner of the football, and it has had a better season as the season progressed, throwing the ball as well. But unfortunately for UCLA, it's too little too late. Garbers' final season, he does turn the ball over too much. If UCLA does win this football game, though, they probably are going bowling. They get Fresno State at home next week. I think they probably win that game. But just with SC coming into Pasadena, I do like the Trojans to win this game on the road and beat UCLA. Going on to our final game of the video, we've got Colorado State going to the Valley to take on the Fresno State Bulldogs. We like Colorado State. Again, we've talked about it before. This game is important to the point that Colorado State needs this to make it to the Mountain West Championship game. They absolutely need it. And they didn't have to play Boise or UNLV on the way. They get Utah State next week. They're winning that game at home. Colorado State is not losing at home to Utah State. This is their toughest task. I think they beat Fresno. If it wasn't for Fresno's 2 straight losses, I wouldn't be taking Fresno here. But I can't trust the Fresno State team that's lost back-to-back games to Air Force and to Hawaii to beat Colorado State. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be cheering for Fresno State. I love Mikey Keene. I'm a big Mikey Keene fan, and I like Fresno State. I'm hoping nothing but the best next season for Mikey Keene in his senior year. I'd like to see him stay at Fresno State. He should. He better. But I'm taking Colorado State in this game. I'm taking Fowler, Nicolosi, and the guys here at Colorado State. Again, they are an injured team. Horton's out for the season, obviously, but Colorado State should be just fine in this football game. They really should. They should be just fine in this one. Their defense should be able to shut down Fresno State, a Fresno State offense who has struggled a little bit the last couple weeks, losing to Hawaii at home, losing at Air Force. That usually doesn't spell the best results, again, going forward. They still have a chance to become bowl eligible. Maybe they do beat UCLA on the road next week. Actually, that's a spot where maybe Fresno can win. But I don't think they beat Colorado State at home here. Again, Fresno State's playing for UNLV here. They are trying to get UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game. I just don't think it happens. I think Colorado State is the better team. I think Colorado State, their defense has been stifling all season long. The Rams have been playing great defense. They stopped Wyoming to 10 points. New Mexico, who we rave about all year long. I love Devin Dampier and that New Mexico offense. Guys, Colorado State held them to 6 points. San Jose State, explosive offense. Locklear, that was still Emmett Brown, I believe. Obviously, the leading receiver in all college football, Nick Nash. What happened? They only scored 24 points on Colorado State. Colorado State's undefeated in league play. They started the year 3-3. They lost to Colorado, lost to Oregon State, which sucks. Got blown out by Texas. But now they're in a position to go 7-0 in the Mountain West and put themselves in the Mountain West Championship game against Boise State. I think it absolutely happens. Give me the Colorado State Rams to win on the road in the Valley at Fresno. Obviously covering the 3 points, but winning the game outright as well. And folks, that'll do it for our week number 13 college football predictions here on the channel. This is by far the longest one we've made on the channel so far. It's got to be 2.5 hours at least. Next week will be longer, because every team in college football plays next week. No bye weeks, no FCS games. Oh man. So make sure to join us next week, folks. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.